mysterious multi-level labyrinth beneath the Great Pyramids has just been photographed using spaceborne imaging radar and confirms two massive underground labyrinths. According to Herodotus, the underground labyrinth was constructed incrementally. It contained over 12 spacious chambers with tall entrances, all interconnected by a complex system of passageways. The labyrinth was multi-tiered and encompassed by a fortifying enclosure. Polish experts, in collaboration with their American counterparts, conducted further research on the labyrinth, although from a distance. Utilizing remote sensing capabilities on the Capella space satellite, they captured images of the vicinity surrounding the pyramid in order to investigate the concealed labyrinths. Researchers observed that the higher level contains multiple spacious chambers and an intricate network of tunnels surrounding them. The underground structure has a total area of 400,000 square kilometers. Furthermore, it is important to note that this measurement of 400,000 square kilometers is neither an error or a typographical mistake. The largest room on the first level has dimensions equivalent to that of a football pitch. The lower level is indicated by the color red. The circular tunnels have a length of 1.3 kilometers and are positioned in a circular formation. Why the Egyptians could have used such an extensive system of labyrinths and large rooms remains a mystery. Strabo states that the labyrinth's ceilings are constructed from sturdy stone slabs, which enabled the Egyptians to create spacious underground chambers in such close proximity to the pyramid. Pliny the Elder, a Roman general and the author of natural history, briefly served with the legion in Egypt. He holds the distinction of being the first Roman of European origin to visit the pyramids and provide a detailed account of them. In 2009, a group of geophysicists, led by Egyptian archaeologists, utilized ground-penetrating radar to create an exceptionally comprehensive map of the region. Through this process, they uncovered an extensive network of subterranean walls, forming what may be described as an ancient labyrinth. The angles of the wall's closures indicate the presence of spacious enclosed areas. Therefore, the French research conducted in 2008 has been validated. The mystery of the Toynbee tiles. The Toynbee tiles, also known as Toynbee plaques, are an urban mystery that has baffled and intrigued people for decades. These mysterious messages, embedded in the asphalt of streets across approximately 24 major cities in the United States and 4 cities in South America, have sparked widespread curiosity and speculation. The origins, meaning, and creator of the Toynbee tiles remain unknown, making them a fascinating case of modern urban folklore. The Toynbee tiles first gained public attention in the early 1980s when pedestrians in Philadelphia began noticing small, cryptic messages embedded in the city's streets. The tiles, typically measuring about the size of a license plate, contained various strange messages. Over time, similar tiles were discovered in other major cities, including New York, Washington, D.C., Boston, and even as far afield as Buenos Aires, Argentina, and Santiago. The tiles are made from layers of linoleum and asphalt crack-filling compound, allowing them to adhere firmly to the pavement. The messages are meticulously cut out and often feature additional, smaller text, providing further cryptic instructions or commentary. Despite being subject to traffic and weather, many of the tiles have remained intact for years, a testament to their durable construction. The reference to Toynbee in the tiles is widely believed to refer to the British historian Arnold J. Toynbee, known for his work on the cyclical nature of civilizations. However, Toynbee's writings do not directly address the themes of resurrection or space travel, leading to speculation about the intended meaning of the reference. Some theorists suggest that the tiles might be drawing on Toynbee's philosophical ideas about the potential for human renewal and transformation. The most mysterious part of the message is the phrase, "resurrect on planet Jupiter." This could be interpreted literally, suggesting a belief in the possibility of resurrecting the dead on Jupiter through some unknown process. Alternatively, it might be a metaphorical statement, implying a broader vision of human transformation and renewal. The ambiguity of the message has fueled numerous interpretations, ranging from serious philosophical discussions to more whimsical speculations. Despite extensive efforts by researchers and enthusiasts, the identity of the person or persons behind the Toynbee tiles remains a mystery. Various theories have been proposed, with some suggesting that the tiles are the work of a single individual, while others believe that a group of like-minded individuals might be responsible. The Toynbee tiles have become an iconic part of urban street art and graffiti culture. Their mysterious origins and cryptic messages have inspired artists, writers, and filmmakers, contributing to a broader discourse about the nature of public art and its role in urban environments. The tiles' ability to capture the imagination of passers-by highlights the power of art to provoke thought and curiosity. The mysterious disappearance of James Litka. James Bernard Litka vanished on the early morning of Sunday, November 4, 2018, while dressed in denim trousers and a baseball cap. The individual was observed departing Shenanigans Bar on Water Street in Eau Claire, potentially accompanied by one or even two females, around the time frame of 1 to 3 in the morning. Soon after he went missing, an authorized search was carried out in the Chippewa River, but it was unsuccessful. As part of the formal inquiry, surveillance footage was collected from the places where Litka is thought to have been present on the evening he went missing. James, a former member of the Army, was enrolled as a student at the University of Wisconsin-Stout when he disappeared. He is of Asian descent, with a short black hairstyle and brown eyes. He has a height of approximately 5 feet and 7 inches, and his weight is approximately 170 pounds. A Facebook page named Bring James Litka Home has been created by his friends and family to disseminate information to the public about the ongoing search for him. The mysterious disappearance of Tammy Lynn Lepard. Tammy Lynn Lepard was embarking on a burgeoning modeling and acting career in the early 1980s. With her blonde hair and hazel eyes, she embarked on her modeling career by participating in beauty pageants at the tender age of 4, winning an impressive total of 280 crowns. At the age of 18, she aspired to pursue her acting career in Hollywood in 1983. However, her aspirations were never fulfilled. She departed from her mother's residence in Rockledge, Florida on the morning of July 6, 1983, and thereafter disappeared without any further sightings. Shortly before she vanished, her mother gave testimony indicating that she had been exhibiting peculiar behavior and seemed to be experiencing inner turmoil. After 4 days of filming the movie Scarface, she exhibited such unpredictable behavior upon returning home that her mother decided to take her to the hospital for a psychiatric evaluation. Tammy Lynn Lepard was placed under the doctor's supervision for a duration of 3 days before being discharged, as there was no substantiated proof of misuse or any other discernible physical conditions. As reported by her mother, she had signs of paranoia and anxiety, demonstrating a refusal to consume food or beverages from unsealed containers and maintaining a constant state of suspicion that someone intended to harm her. Significantly, on the morning she vanished, she had neglected to groom her hair prior to departing the residence, a behavior that her mother deemed highly uncharacteristic. She had accompanied an unknown male companion, who was the final individual to witness her existence. According to his account, they engaged in a dispute, and he left her alone at a parking lot near an Exxon gas station off State Road A1A in Cocoa Beach, Florida. Tammy Lynn Lepard's final known attire consisted of a blue denim skirt and a blue top adorned with floral appliques. She was also carrying a grey purse and wearing sandals. Several tales have reported that witnesses saw her without shoes shortly before she vanished, although these reports were never confirmed. There were other conjectures that she might have been in her first trimester of pregnancy at the time of her vanishing. Lepard's mother asserted that she harbored fear towards the male acquaintance who had given her a ride on that particular day, and she believed he should have been regarded as a potential suspect. Nevertheless, the police said that he was not a plausible suspect, and no formal accusations were ever brought against him. The police inquiry ultimately led them to a man named Christopher Wilder, who was responsible for the vanishings of numerous women in the Florida region during the early to mid-1980s. He had a reputation for tricking females into coming to his house by pretending to offer them modeling opportunities. This deception may have led Tammy Lynn Lepard, a well-known model, to go with him. The Lepard family initially initiated legal proceedings against Wilder, but ultimately decided to withdraw the allegations. Wilder met his demise in 1984 following an exchange with law enforcement, and the authorities were unable to definitively establish his connection to Lepard's vanishing. Tammy Lynn Lepard's excessive suspicion caused her mother to suspect that her disappearance was connected to a more malevolent and threatening situation. She held the belief that her daughter had become entangled in a nearby money transfer organization and subsequently became a target of the criminal group due to her extensive knowledge of their activities. Nevertheless, these theories remained unverifiable. Tammy Lynn Lepard's mother passed away in 1995, and to this day, the mystery surrounding her disappearance remains unsolved. Val Johnson Incident. On August 27, 1979, at approximately 1:40 in the morning, police officer Val Johnson was performing patrol duties in Marshall County, Minnesota. As he neared the junction with Minnesota State 220, he glanced to ensure there were no vehicles before proceeding. While observing, he encountered an intensely luminous and dazzling light that appeared to be moving towards him. However, the light did not seem to be illuminating the road. Furthermore, the lights did not resemble the headlights of an approaching vehicle. The object was positioned around 4 feet above the ground and had distinct boundaries. Initially, Johnson speculated whether it was a diminutive aircraft maybe doing an emergency descent. He advanced prudently down Minnesota State 220 Road. Within a few seconds, the light swiftly moved towards him, appearing just in front of him. It collided with his patrol car. The cacophony of shattering glass and mangled metal assaulted his auditory senses as his vision was overwhelmed by the radiant brilliance of the light. Subsequently, while the patrol car was still moving, he lost consciousness. Upon regaining consciousness, the car had moved roughly 800 feet from his previous known position and was now positioned perpendicular to the road. He examined the time shown on the dashboard's clock. The time was 2:19 in the morning, and according to reports, he had apparently misplaced over 40 minutes. Moreover, when retrospectively examining the road behind him, conspicuous black skid tracks were evident, undoubtedly caused by his vehicle. Johnson was unaware that an unidentified force had activated the brakes of the vehicle in an attempt to stop it. Confused, he extended his hand towards the radio situated on the dashboard of the car. Upon seeking aid, a colleague from the Marshall County Police Force, Everett Doolittle, promptly arrived at the location and subsequently requested medical assistance. Johnson, predictably, was discovered to be in a state of shock and was complaining of extremely painful eyes. He was taken to Warren Hospital for a series of exams and x-rays. It was discovered that he had ocular damage, which closely resembled the kind of injury that a welder can experience in the course of their work. Additional investigations revealed minor harm to the inner eye, which is in line with being subjected to an intense light source at a short distance. One intriguing aspect of the entire incident, particularly at the location, was that both Johnson's wristwatch and the clock in the patrol car were precisely 14 minutes behind. Considering the fact that the perpetrator was a fellow member of their organization, a prompt police inquiry would ensue. Initially, there were speculations that the incident was caused by ball lightning, while some suggested that the bright light that caused Johnson to lose consciousness may have originated from the overhead power lines at the area. Nevertheless, it is understandable that some researchers who approach the occurrence from a UFO standpoint were somewhat skeptical of these original explanations. Upon closer examination of the case, including the analysis of the specific physical damage to the vehicle, it becomes evident that an incident did occur to Johnson on the isolated road in Minnesota. However, the particular nature of this incident remains somewhat unclear. It is crucial to thoroughly investigate the police car and the extent of the damage it incurred in this case. As an illustration, Johnson remembered perceiving the sound of shattering glass as he lost consciousness. The windscreen sustained significant damage, and the glass cracked as if it had been struck directly by something. In addition, the antennas located at the rear of the vehicle's roof were severely deformed. This hint would be crucial in evaluating what objects may or may not have made touch with Johnson's automobile. Some investigators argue that this damage was caused by an object colliding with the antennae. Alternatively, some researchers may argue that the antennas became deformed due to the forceful forward motion caused by applying the brakes. Subsequently, they would forcefully impact the crimson dome of the police lights, resulting in its deformation due to the intense heat. Nevertheless, during the experiments carried out at Honeywell Labs in Minneapolis, It became evident that the antennas were bent as a result of external force rather than the combination of high temperature and rapid movement. Essentially, Johnson's patrol car was impacted by a tangible object. Moreover, it seems like the left side of the car bore the main impact of the incident. The extent of the damage to the windscreen turned out to be more captivating than originally anticipated. Although ball lightning was initially considered as a possible explanation, subsequent investigations, including those conducted by the Center for UFO Studies, have failed to provide a definitive answer for the cause of the encounter. In addition, there was absolutely no evidence indicating that Johnson had fabricated any aspect of the incident. In addition, his reputation and credibility were consistently flawless. Additionally, numerous captivating information would emerge during the ongoing investigations and conversations around the case. By sheer coincidence, Johnson had undergone dental treatment shortly before the incident, and he was scheduled to have additional follow-up work done after the encounter. X-rays were collected during the initial dental procedure in order to prepare for further work. The X-rays would demonstrate that Johnson's bridge work on his front teeth was entirely satisfactory. However, during the subsequent process, the bridgework was no longer intact. Furthermore, they were fractured at the gum line. Johnson should have experienced significant edema and intense discomfort as a consequence of this. Nevertheless, he did not experience either of them. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration are unable to identify or explain a set of mysterious holes on the ocean floor. In July 2022, a group of scientists discovered a distinctive series of cavities on the Atlantic Ocean floor, for which we have not yet determined a cause. A group of scientists were investigating a submerged mountain range in the ocean when they discovered the cavities. These are a peculiar sequence of dots arranged in nearly straight lines down the bottom of the ocean. On July 23rd, this finding was made, and since then, experts have been questioning if these formations are producing trails, designs, or any other form of meaningful pattern. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration Ocean Exploration has undertaken the endeavor to elucidate this peculiar discovery. A spokesperson from the Ocean Exploration stated that the holes bear resemblance to human-made structures, yet they are surrounded by minor accumulations of sand, suggesting that they have been excavated in some way. They were also referred to as sublinear. It is possible that these holes may have already been reported, but we still do not know where they originated from or how they were created. The team was doing a dive to explore the area surrounding the Peak of Azores, which is an underwater volcano. The holes were discovered at a depth of 1.7 kilometers. The scientists from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration had been conducting cartography of the deep-sea regions in the Charlie Gibbs Fracture Zone, Mid-Atlantic Ridge, and Azores Plateau. Limited information is available regarding these waters. However, the purpose of the Voyage to the Ridge 2022 expedition is to conduct a mission and enhance our understanding of this region. Scientists have urged the general people to participate in formulating theories and speculating about the underlying causes of these mysterious holes. 2008 marked a momentous occasion in the history of UFO sightings. Over a small Turkish village, a series of extraordinary events unfolded that would captivate the world's attention. The UFO sighting began when dozens of residents in the small village observed a series of strange lights and an object hovering in the night sky. Witnesses described the object as disc-shaped, with bright lights that seemed to pulse and change colors. The UFO hovered silently for hours, defying the laws of physics and leaving the villagers in a state of awe and disbelief. Turkey has a long and rich history of unexplained aerial phenomena dating back centuries, but between 2007 and 2009 in the northwest region of the country, a series of unusual events took place. Multiple strange objects were observed over the sea and witnessed by local residents. During that time, an important video was taken of something unidentified, hovering in the sky at the same location. Numerous residents from the local area have recounted their encounters with unidentified flying objects that displayed disc and oval shapes in the sky. These aerial objects had a distinct metallic appearance and demonstrated silent maneuvers, occasionally accompanied by peculiar red and orange lights. The witnesses comprised a mix of individuals residing in the nearby housing complex and intrigued onlookers, including fishermen. Fascinatingly, in 2009, following a UFO conference held close to Istanbul, Roger Lehr and a group of 7 to 8 people personally experienced a sighting. Under the luminous glow of a bright moon, they witnessed a mysterious disc-shaped object lingering in the heavens. Notably, Roger Lehr himself observed Yeltsin capturing video footage of this anomalous object in the sky. Prior to his demise, he was interviewed multiple times regarding this remarkable event, further establishing the credibility and significance of the incident. Reports were filed with the Sirius UFO and Space Science Research Group, which is Turkey's primary UFO reporting organization, run by Haktan Akdogan. Also, the videos were analyzed by the Scientific and Technology Research Board of Turkey and Tug National Observatory, which are both sponsored by the state and highly influential. They reviewed the originals with the goal of finding evidence of a forgery, but interestingly came away with results that actually supported the authenticity instead. The original film cassettes have also been studied by people from the United States, the United Kingdom, Japan, Chile, and Brazil. After several attempts so far, nobody has been able to successfully demonstrate evidence of a hoax, fraud, or manipulation, leaving the case as an unsolved mystery. The previous year, between May 22nd and September 28th, a series of unusual aerial phenomena were witnessed and documented in the vicinity of Yeni Kent facility on the shore of Kumburgaz. Yeltsin, who was working the night shift at the facility, had a privileged vantage point, which allowed him to witness these sightings. As word spread, the local residents became increasingly intrigued, resulting in a growing number of people taking notice. The 2008 sightings, reminiscent of those in 2007, received significant attention in the Turkish national media, including news networks from the United States. This, in turn, sparked the interest of the Turkish scientific and astronomy community, who took the initiative to thoroughly analyze the captured footage. The following day, a mesmerizing sphere of glowing orange and red plasma-like light hovers effortlessly in the sky, appearing motionless for an extended period of time. Its radiant brilliance casts a vibrant reflection upon the calm surface of the water, creating a breathtaking visual spectacle that captivates the onlookers. Just 4 days after the initial sighting, another distinct orange glowing object is witnessed. Shortly thereafter, a peculiar craft, depicted in the image provided below, is captured on film. Interestingly, there seems to be a potential horizontal movement that results in a noticeable shift of light and shadow across the entirety of the structure. This observation raises intriguing questions regarding the nature and behavior of these unidentified aerial phenomena. Upon reviewing the unedited video footage, it is evident that there is a distinctive elongated anomaly that remains stationary just above the surface of the water. Yeltsin, the person responsible for capturing the footage, skillfully utilized the zoom function on the camera, allowing for multiple close-ups and wide shots. As of right now, one theory that's been put forward is that this object is part of a cruise ship. However, when looking into the object location within the sky, along with ships' logs and records, it shows that nothing was in that area during the time of these sightings. In the following analysis, a thorough examination has been conducted, revealing multiple factors that cast doubt on the validity of the cruise ship theory. The moon as a reference point is often used by astronomers to estimate the angular elevation of objects in the night sky, such as airplanes, helicopters, and celestial objects. The standard rule is, the angular diameter of the moon is about 0.5 degrees, or 2 moon widths would be 1 degree. During the 17th of May, the segment of the moon and the unknown object are filmed in the same frame for several minutes. This can be used to see how far the object was above the horizon. It could theoretically decide if it was too high in altitude, or, if the object was on the horizon, it could support the cruise ship theory. When filming both the moon and an object in conjunction, this particular scenario provides a valuable opportunity to estimate the angular elevation of the object above the horizon. The Turkey UFO Case website used Stellarium, a highly popular planetarium software among astronomers, and this allows users to observe celestial alignments of stars and planets from any location on Earth, either in the present or the past. In this specific case, they inputted the precise coordinates of the camera's position on May 17, 2009. Analysis of the footage reveals that at 6 minutes past 3, the moon appeared approximately 12.3 degrees above the horizon when observed from the camera's location. This information, captured in detail, provides a comprehensive understanding of the specific celestial positioning during that precise moment in time and space. According to a widely accepted astronomy principle, it is established that when the diameter of two moons is combined, it measures up to 1 degree. This fundamental rule serves as a valuable tool for measuring celestial objects and phenomena. Examining the given scenario below, it becomes evident that the unidentified object captured in the video was positioned approximately 7.9 degrees above the horizon. This information not only highlights the significance of the astronomy rule, but also underscores its practical application in analyzing celestial observations. According to Alcyone's assertion, if a ship is situated far beyond the Earth's curvature, it would give the illusion of being significantly lower on the horizon compared to its actual position. Once the measurements have been established, we can now proceed to visualize the appearance of the unidentified object at that specific moment. It is important to note that based on the data, the object's position relative to the horizon suggests that it is highly unlikely to be a cruise ship or yacht. According to Alcyone's claims, the object in question was the bridge of a cruise ship, but it is highly unlikely due to its proximity to the shore and shallow waters. The measurements suggest that the unidentified object was positioned too high above the surface, contradicting Alcyone's theory. This discrepancy challenges the validity of Alcyone's claim and raises doubts about the accuracy of their assessment. Examining the scenario more deeply, it becomes evident that the object's height could not be attributed to a cruise ship's bridge, as it would be too high in the sky. The designated marina utilized for accommodating cruise ships that visit is known as the port of Karakoy. However, it is worth noting that this marina is situated in the Bosphorus Strait, which unfortunately cannot be visually observed from the specific location of the observer. The automatic identification system is a globally employed automated tracking system utilized by vessel traffic services to electronically exchange ship data, with the purpose of identifying and locating ships. This system operates through automatic identification system transponders, which are equipped with a VHF radio that transmits the position of ships periodically. The ship's GPS provides accurate information regarding the ship's location and velocity. With its comprehensive coverage and in-depth analysis, the automatic identification system plays a crucial role in enriching maritime operations by enhancing the understanding of vessel movements and facilitating effective traffic management. The following is a comprehensive and in-depth compilation of automatic identification system vessel traffic reports for the Sea of Marmara on May 13th and May 15th, 2009. These reports provide detailed information about each vessel, including its call sign, date, and time of observation, latitude and longitude coordinates, as well as the wind speed at the time of observation. In the event that a cruise ship or yacht happened to be present at the specified sighting location, it is imperative that it be included in the list. In the Bosphorus Strait, a number of vessels could be observed, with a few situated in the Black Sea while others positioned outside the camera's range to the west or east. It is important to note that no evidence suggests the presence of a cruise ship or yacht within the camera's coverage at that particular moment. This comprehensive and in-depth analysis enriches our understanding of the maritime activity in the area and highlights the absence of certain types of vessels in the vicinity captured by the camera. Upon careful examination, it has been determined that at precisely 3:59 in the morning on the 13th of May, 2009, no conclusive evidence exists to substantiate the presence of either a cruise ship or a yacht within the visual range of the camera. In addition, it should be noted that during the time the footage was captured, there were no other vessels, such as tankers, fishing boats, or bulk carriers, within sight or in the immediate vicinity. In the country of Turkey, there have been no reports or accounts from residents who claim to have witnessed the presence of a cruise ship or yacht in the area. Considering the extensive media coverage surrounding this issue in Turkey, it is surprising that no one has stepped forward to confirm the existence of a cruise ship in the area. According to Turkish researchers, and Yalcin Yalman's statements, it has been determined that the videos captured on July 30th, 2007, August 31st, 2008, and May 14th, 2009 were not recorded near the sea, but rather on land. This finding holds value as it sheds light on the location where these intriguing sightings took place. Interestingly, on the 14th of May 2009, this peculiar event occurred in front of a sizable gathering of individuals attending a conference situated miles away from any oceanic vicinity. By carefully examining these videos captured over land, we are presented with compelling evidence that challenges the notion of a cruise ship being involved in these occurrences. This means that the conventional assumption of these sightings being connected to maritime activities can be discounted. The original footage captured a remarkable phenomenon, a luminous ball of light that gradually transformed into a dome-shaped craft. The recording took place in a condominium owned by Yalcin's father, situated several blocks away from the waterfront. It is worth noting that the condominium is situated at a significant distance from the sea, adding to the intrigue and mystery surrounding the sighting. Upon careful examination, the luminous ball of light exhibited a mesmerizing transformation. Throughout the course of history, there have been numerous instances where orange luminous spheres have been frequently observed in conjunction with unidentified flying objects. Despite ongoing investigations, the exact reasons behind their presence continue to elude us. In the case of Yalcin's film, which has garnered attention, it is intriguing to note that it comprises multiple sequences showcasing these captivating light orbs. Notably, these luminous phenomena appear either during, just before, or immediately after the sightings of other unidentified objects, thus bolstering the curiosity surrounding their existence. Furthermore, eyewitness testimonies recounting the presence of these enigmatic orange balls strongly support their reality. Considering various straightforward aspects, it becomes highly improbable for these peculiar orange light balls to be attributed to the presence of a cruise ship. The factors contributing to this improbability are multifaceted and undeniable. During the period of heightened UFO sightings in 2008, specifically on June 9th, Yalcin and several other individuals had the remarkable opportunity to witness an extraordinary occurrence. The occurrence of the orange light phenomenon typically occurred at the same specific location, either during, shortly before, or right after the presence or movement of other objects. This observation suggests a notable correlation between the orange light occurrence and the neighboring objects. During the extraordinary wave that occurred in 2008, local residents reported regular sightings of unidentified objects. One particularly notable incident took place on July 4, 2008, when an unexplained light was captured on film from 5:20 in the morning to 5:53. It is important to consider various visual factors that strongly indicate a cruise ship or yacht is highly unlikely to be the cause of this phenomenon. Firstly, the unexplained light appeared to be positioned significantly above the horizon, making it implausible for it to be originating from a boat. In the early hours of the same day, specifically at 2:43 in the morning, an intriguing phenomenon occurred above the vast expanse of the sea. This peculiar event involved the appearance of a circular or disc-shaped object, captivating the attention of those who were fortunate enough to witness it. During the events of July 4, 2008, an interesting observation was made as both sequences were recorded in the exact same location. This intriguing coincidence raises the possibility that the object being filmed in both instances could potentially be one and the same. In recent interviews, Yalcin Yalman has expressed that the segment of July 30, 2007 was captured from the open-air balcony of his father's condominium, which is located a few blocks away from the Yeni Kent facility situated on the beautiful beaches of Kumburgaz. On that occasion, Yalman initially observed a peculiar anomaly in the form of a dome appearing in the far distance. Initially, the videos underwent a meticulous examination, supervised by Haktan Akdogan, a distinguished Turkish researcher and the director of the Sirius UFO and Space Science Research Center. Haktan diligently interviewed each witness independently and subsequently proceeded with a thorough analysis of the videos. Collaborating with the esteemed members of their science board, they employed advanced techniques to magnify the images, meticulously scrutinized every pixel, and meticulously examined each frame in intricate detail. This comprehensive endeavor aimed to ensure a comprehensive understanding and in-depth analysis of the videos, enriching the overall investigation. Haktan Akdogan said the following. After doing all the necessary analysis, which went on for several weeks, the board came to a definite conclusion with no doubt that these are 100% genuine videos. The objects cited in the aforementioned footage that have a structure that is made of specific material are definitely not made up by any kind of computer animation, nor are they any form of special effects used for simulation in a studio or for a video effect. Therefore, in conclusion, it was decided that the sightings were neither a mock-up or hoax. And it is concluded that these objects in the sightings that have physical and material structures do not belong in any category such as planes, helicopters, meteors, Venus, Mars, satellites, fireballs, Chinese lantern, fireballs, weather balloons, natural or atmospheric phenomenon, and but rather fall into the category of UFOs. End quote. Given that the most remarkable aspects of the case revolve around the alleged presence of extraterrestrial beings in the recorded footage, the focus of observation primarily centered on the central area of the unidentified object. According to the witness, this is where he claimed to have seen someone, which has been interpreted as the presence of occupants or a crew. In a summary, the information gathered from the case suggests that a door or window of some sort could be located in the center of the object. At times, this opening appears to remain unclosed, providing a glimpse of two distinct heads, which are assumed to belong to the elusive extraterrestrial occupants. In a more comprehensive analysis, it is worth noting that these findings emphasize the significance of the central region of the unidentified object. It is believed that this area serves as a point of entry or exit, allowing for potential observations or interactions with the occupants. The uncovered details from this case shed light on the intriguing nature of the encounter, expanding our understanding of the phenomenon. The sequence depicts with commendable clarity the specific moment in which one of the figures, exhibiting what appears to be humanoid characteristics, lifts its gaze and fixates its gaze directly ahead for a fleeting interval of time. The visual presentation reveals the presence of a distinct head structure with two relatively large and dark eyes. Furthermore, upon closer examination, it is conceivable to discern a fragment of the figure's body, perhaps a small torso, in relation to the aforementioned head. In this particular image, the application of only one level filter was employed to enhance the brightness of the scene. By utilizing this technique, the objective was to maximize the extraction of data that could potentially be captured by the camera, all the while preserving the overall quality of the image. As of right now, the Turkey UFO incident is still heavily debated. Ship records show that no cruise ship was in the area during these sightings, and after zooming in on the footage, there's many that believe they can see humanoid entities within the aircraft. To this day, the Turkey incident remains a mystery. The Mystery Woman. In August 1954, the top of Mount Palomar in the United States hosted a remarkable convention that featured details on mysterious flying aircrafts, detailing eyewitness encounters and sharing knowledge about sightings that no one knew about. The event took place at an altitude of over 1,800 meters, and different members in the community gathered to exchange ideas and share experiences about these strange phenomena. The convention was highly memorable, and it attracted participants from different parts of the country who were keen to learn and engage in discussions surrounding the convention. Was attended by over 1,000 individuals from various walks of life, including journalists from all over the globe, FBI agents, witnesses, and even individuals who were merely curious. All of the people who were contacted shared their distinct experiences. At the conclusion of the initial day's proceedings, there was a commotion among the attendees as they observed the unanticipated presence of an attractive woman accompanied by a duo of men. One of the men had glasses, and all three individuals were of fair complexion. The woman distinguished herself with her blonde hair and strikingly black and intense eyes. Further standout features included unusual cranial formation and an unusual bone mark on her forehead. During the convention, a journalist from Brazil was in attendance and conducted an interview with a group of individuals who signed the guest book. According to the journalist's research, the woman in the group was named Dolores Barrios, and she identified herself as being a fashion designer from New York. During the meeting the next day, Martins managed to take a photograph of the woman, which surprised her and led to her immediately leaving the area with her two friends. Oddly enough, moments after the three individuals left and ran for the nearby forest, those in attendance reported that a mysterious aircraft was seen taking off and leaving the area at incredible speeds. However, due to the speed in which the aircraft was traveling, the witnesses in attendance reported that they were unable to capture any photographic evidence of the event. Despite thorough investigation, no individuals have come forward to claim knowledge or identification of the unusual individuals depicted in the photographs. As of today, it remains a mystery who they are, what their purpose was, and why they left the event in a hurry. Jerome of Sandy Cove. In September of 1863, an unidentified man was found on the beach of Sandy Cove and given the name Jerome. This man's true identity remains a mystery to this day. The discovery of Jerome sparked curiosity and questions about how he ended up where he did and where he originated from. The individual in question was discovered with amputated legs, leaving him unable to stand. When questioned by locals, he provided limited responses, perhaps indicating a lack of proficiency in both English and French languages. He was requested to reveal his name, but his response was unclear, as he muttered something which sounded like Jerome. Consequently, he was addressed by this name. An 8-year-old boy named George Colin Albright discovered him in the village of Digby Neck, and he was later taken to the Albright family's home to receive proper care and attention. The boy found him in a state of ill health and decided to take it upon himself to bring him back to health. Jerome had undergone a surgical procedure where both of his legs were amputated above the knees, and the incisions showed that the surgeon performing the amputation was highly skilled. It is evident by some that Jerome had lost both of his legs at the same time, but as of right now, researchers are unsure of how this happened. When the man was discovered, it was observed that the stumps on his body were only partially healed and still covered by bandages. In addition, he was experiencing the unpleasant effects of being exposed to cold weather for an extended period of time. Visitors to his sick bed were interested in learning more about him, but were surprised to discover that he was unable to comprehend French, Latin, Italian, or Spanish. These shortcomings highlighted his limited linguistic abilities, which impacted his interactions with foreign partners. According to witnesses, the man in question was observed to be avoiding the attention of the curious onlookers, and when faced with unwanted guests, he growled like a dog to scare them away. The observers also noticed that the man seemed to have hands that were too soft to belong to a manual labourer, and he was described as having a Mediterranean appearance. The family who had found him had a hard time supporting another member, which resulted in him being passed from one household to another. Finally, the Baptist community of Digby Neck suggested that he was a Catholic, and so subsequently sent him to the nearby French community of Vatican. This experience of being shifted from family to family had a significant impact on Jerome's life. The government then got involved and made the decision to approve a fixed sum of $2 per week to provide financial support to Jerome. After the community persistently attempted to break his aloofness, Jerome was compelled to reside with Jean Nicola, a multilingual Corsican defector. Nicola was unable to engage him in conversation, but Jerome remained residing in the household of Nicola for an additional 7 years. During his stay, he became a beloved companion of the female members of the household. Soon after the passing of Juliette Nicola, her husband relocated to Europe, while Jerome found shelter with Dedier and Zabeth Como near Mettingen. Jerome passed away on the 15th of April, 1912. Decades passed, and various individuals claimed they knew who Jerome was. Many believed the man to be Italian, perhaps a mutilated nobleman who kept his silence to save himself from political rivals. Another theory was that he was an Italian naval officer, injured on board and cruelly abandoned by his crewmates. Those who cared for him claimed he would sometimes utter Colombo and Trieste, further proving that he was Italian. The mystery of the Green Children of Woolpit. The Green Children of Woolpit is a legend that dates back to the 12th century and is believed to have originated in the town of Woolpit in Suffolk, England. The legend tells the story of two children, a brother and a sister, who were found wandering in a field outside the town of Woolpit. They were strange-looking children with green skin and spoke a language that no one in the town could understand. The children were taken in by a local landowner, Sir Richard de Cane, who tried to feed them with bread and water. However, the children refused to eat any food except for green beans. They appeared to be in good health, but they refused to eat anything else other than green beans. Over time, the children began to adapt to their new surroundings and eventually learned to speak English. They told their hosts that they came from a place called St. Martin's Land, which was a world of perpetual twilight. They claimed that the sun never shone in their world and that everything was always green. As the children grew older, their skin gradually lost its green color, and they began to eat regular food. The boy became sick and passed away, while the girl adapted to her new life and eventually married a man from King's Lynn. She reportedly retained her greenish hue for the rest of her life. The legend of the Green Children of Woolpit has been the subject of much speculation and debate over the centuries, with some suggesting that the children were actually advanced beings or creatures from another dimension, while others believe that they were the survivors of an ancient civilization or the descendants of a race of green-skinned people. However, most historians and scholars believe that the story of the Green Children is likely a combination of folklore and historical fact. The green color of their skin may have been the result of a rare genetic condition known as chlorosis, which causes the skin to turn greenish-yellow due to a lack of iron in the blood. Alternatively, the children may have been suffering from malnutrition or exposure to an unknown substance that caused their skin to turn green. The story of the Green Children of Woolpit has been retold many times over the centuries and has become a popular legend in English folklore. Despite the many theories and speculations surrounding the story, the true origins of the Green Children remain a mystery. The mysterious Lady in White. The Lady in White is a common ghostly apparition that has been reported in various cultures and regions around the world. The origins of the Lady in White legend are unclear, but many believe it to have originated from the 19th century Victorian era in Europe, where it was believed that a woman who passed away tragically and without justice could become a ghost, dressed in a long white dress and haunting the place of her death. The Lady in White is often associated with tragic or violent deaths, and the apparition is commonly seen near or around the location where she passed away. The Lady in White is often described as a beautiful, pale woman wearing a long white dress, sometimes with a veil or shawl covering her hair. Her appearance is usually ethereal, and she is said to have a peaceful or sad expression. The Lady in White is often reported to appear in areas such as graveyards, abandoned buildings, or on the side of the road. Many people believe that the Lady in White's appearance is a warning of danger or tragedy, while others believe that the apparition is a lost soul seeking justice for her untimely passing. Regardless of the belief, the Lady in White has become a popular figure in many ghost stories and legends. There are many reported sightings of the Lady in White around the world, with each region or culture having its own interpretation of the apparition. For example, in Hispanic culture, the Lady in White is known as La Llorona, or the Weeping Woman, who haunts rivers and waterways, mourning the loss of her children. In the United States, there are many stories of the Lady in White, including at the Myrtles Plantation in Louisiana, where a ghostly woman in a white dress has been reported to haunt the grounds. In New York, the Lady in White is said to appear on the Taconic State Parkway, where she passed away in a car collision. She is also reported to haunt the Donovan Mill in Nevada, where a woman named Elizabeth McGrath was taken out in a mining accident. The origin of the Lady in White motif is unclear, but it is likely that it has evolved from various cultural and historical sources. One possible explanation for the Lady in White motif is that it is a manifestation of the archetypal figure of the mourning woman. The archetype of the mourning woman is a universal theme in mythology and folklore, and it often represents the grief and sorrow of a community or a nation. The Lady in White may be seen as a specific manifestation of this archetype, representing the grief and sorrow of a particular time and place. Another possible explanation for the lady in white motif is that it is a manifestation of the concept of residual haunting. Residual haunting is a paranormal phenomenon in which an event from the past is replayed over and over again in a particular location, creating a ghostly impression. In this context, the lady in white may be seen as a residual haunting of a woman who passed away, or who experienced great emotional turmoil in the location where she is seen. The lady in white is also often associated with specific historical events or legends. In some cases, the lady in white is said to be the ghost of a woman who passed away during childbirth, or who was betrayed by a lover. The lady in white is a fascinating and enduring motif in folklore and ghost stories around the world. Although the origin of the motif is uncertain, it is clear that it has captured the imagination of countless storytellers and continues to haunt our collective imagination. The Vatican, the headquarters of the Catholic Church, is a site of great religious significance for millions of people around the world. However, it is also known to have a long and complex history of paranormal and supernatural phenomena that have fascinated people for centuries. One of the most famous paranormal incidents at the Vatican is the story of the ghost of Pope Leo XIII. According to legend, in 1884, the Pope had a vision of Satan and heard him challenging the Church to a century-long battle. In response, the Pope composed a prayer to St. Michael the Archangel, asking for protection against the devil's schemes. It is said that the Pope's vision and prayer were widely circulated among the faithful and contributed to the growing interest in exorcisms and other supernatural practices within the Church. The Vatican has also been linked to numerous ghost sightings and hauntings over the years. One of the most well-known of these is the story of the ghost of Joan of Arc. According to legend, Joan of Arc was brought to Rome in 1430, where she was interrogated. It is said that her ghost still haunts the church, where it has been seen by numerous visitors over the years. The Vatican also has a long history of secret societies and esoteric traditions that have fueled speculation about its involvement in paranormal and supernatural practices. One of the most well-known of these is the Order of the Knights Templar, a medieval Catholic military order that was accused of practicing witchcraft and other dark arts. While the Templars were disbanded by the Church in the 14th century, their legacy has lived on in popular culture and theories, and they are still widely associated with the Vatican and its inner workings. In recent years, the Vatican has become more open to discussing the paranormal and supernatural. In 2014, for example, the Church held its first ever conference on exorcism, which was attended by hundreds of priests and laypeople from around the world. The conference was intended to address the growing interest in exorcisms and the paranormal, and to provide guidance to priests and other religious figures who encounter people claiming to be possessed by demons or other malevolent spirits. Overall, the Vatican's long and complex history of paranormal and supernatural phenomena has fascinated people for centuries. The Sumerian civilization, nestled in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, is renowned for its pioneering contributions to human history. Among its many achievements, the Sumerians left behind intricate carvings and artifacts that offer tantalizing hints of their advanced understanding of various aspects of life. A subject of intrigue and debate in recent times has been the presence of what appear to be timekeeping devices, often referred to as Sumerian watches, depicted in these ancient carvings. Intriguing carvings and depictions found in Sumerian artifacts have captivated researchers and enthusiasts alike. Among these carvings, some appear to portray what modern eyes might interpret as wristwatches. These objects, nestled on the wrists of various figures, stand out as anomalies within the context of ancient Mesopotamia. The Sumerians were renowned for their advanced understanding of various scientific, mathematical, and astronomical concepts. They were early architects of complex mathematics, the cuneiform writing system, and even the concept of the 60-minute hour. However, the existence of wristwatch-like devices raises questions about their potential knowledge of timekeeping mechanisms that would seem technologically incongruous for their era. In the carvings, individuals are depicted with cylindrical objects resembling modern wristwatches on their wrists. These objects display circular shapes and are accompanied by peculiar appendages that suggest possible crowns or dials. The specificity of their placement and design has led to speculation that these depictions could indeed represent timekeeping devices of some kind. While the idea of wristwatches in ancient Mesopotamia may seem anachronistic, it's important to remember that ancient civilizations had various means of measuring time, often using sundials, water clocks, and celestial observations. The Sumerians, with their advanced knowledge of astronomy, might have devised mechanisms to track time with impressive accuracy, even if they differ significantly from modern wristwatches. Some scholars argue that the wristwatch-like objects may not have been intended to represent functional timekeeping devices. Instead, they suggest that these objects could carry symbolic or ritualistic significance. In ancient cultures, time was often intertwined with religious and cosmic beliefs, and the depiction of these objects could have carried deeper meanings related to the passage of time and the cosmos. The presence of these wristwatch-like objects highlights the complexity of Sumerian culture and the intricacies of their artistic representation. Whether the carvings truly depict timekeeping devices or not, they provide a unique window into the Sumerian perception of time and the objects they associated with it. The depiction of wristwatch-like objects on Sumerian carvings remains a subject of intense debate. Skeptics argue that these objects could be simple adornments, amulets, or representations of tools unrelated to timekeeping. Furthermore, they point out the limitations of Sumerian technology in producing actual wristwatches as we understand them today. The presence of Sumerian watches on ancient carvings invites us to reflect on the challenges of interpreting artifacts from bygone eras. It underscores the delicate balance between recognizing the sophistication of ancient civilizations and avoiding the imposition of modern perspectives onto their achievements. Regardless of whether the wristwatch-like objects were functional timekeeping devices, symbols of cosmic significance, or artistic renderings, they serve as a reminder of the mysteries that linger in the shadows of ancient history. These enigmatic carvings compel us to continue our exploration of the Sumerian civilization, its beliefs, and its contributions to human progress. The Sumerians' knowledge of the cosmos. The clay disc contains a star map from ancient Sumerian civilization. The ancient Sumerians had a certain level of astronomical knowledge, as seen in their records. Unfortunately, much of this knowledge has been lost over time, and only a few fragments remain to give us a glimpse into their understanding of the universe. The Babylonian astronomical knowledge, in comparison to the later standards of Babylonian astronomy, seems relatively rudimentary. Ancient clay tablets from Babylon that have withstood the test of time since the beginning of Mesopotamian civilization document the earliest recorded instance of a total solar eclipse observed in Ugarit. The majority of our knowledge regarding their involvement in ancient astronomy comes from the Babylonian culture, which indirectly transmitted this information. In early Babylonian records, Sumerian star names are used, indicating the existence of a shared body of knowledge that was passed down through generations. A Sumerian seal depicts the sun positioned in the middle of 11 celestial objects. The Sumerians appeared to possess knowledge of the heliocentric nature of the solar system. Within certain tablets, they documented the presence of 11 celestial bodies or planets. The celestial bodies known as planets and moons, traditionally totaling 9 planets and 2 moons, have been observed. However, there is some uncertainty surrounding the exact composition and understanding of these bodies in relation to their rotation around the sun. A 12th celestial object has been discovered outside of our solar system. Scientists are currently engaged in the endeavor of identifying an entity that potentially exists in an orbit beyond the outer planets of our solar system. The knowledge of our solar system was already present among the Sumerians, who lived about 3,000 years before the ancient Greek astronomers. They recorded their understanding of the solar system on clay tablets, using cuneiform writing and illustrations. This information predates the ancient Greeks' knowledge of the subject by several millennia. The Sumerian civilization is widely regarded as the birthplace of human civilization and is recognized as the oldest in human history, with a history that dates back more than 8,000 years. This ancient settlement and civilization emerged in the region known as Mesopotamia, which encompasses present-day Iraq, parts of Iran, Anatolia, and Central Asia. The Sumerians had a highly developed culture and society, encompassing a well-established government, educational institutions, social structure, reliable food sources, religious beliefs, artistic expression, advanced mathematics, astronomy, astrology, medicine, various technologies, and numerous significant innovations. The ancient civilization developed a method of written communication utilizing wedge-shaped symbols known as cuneiform. They meticulously recorded their historical information and documents on clay tablets. Moreover, they demonstrated their innovation by creating musical instruments like the golden harp, as well as crafting exquisite jewelry, metallic objects, stoneware, and textiles. In the Sumerian cosmology, the universe was intricately woven with mythology and spirituality. The Sumerians believed that the universe was populated by a pantheon of deities who held sway over various aspects of existence. Enlil, the god of air and storms, and Anu, the god of the heavens, were just a few of the celestial beings believed to influence human affairs. The Sumerians closely observed the movements of celestial bodies, attributing significance to their positions in the sky. The cyclical patterns of the sun, moon, and stars were seen as reflections of the divine will, affecting everything from agricultural cycles to the fates of kings and kingdoms. The celestial bodies were considered divine messengers, carrying messages from the gods to the earthly realm. Ziggurats, towering stepped temples, were architectural marvels that dominated Sumerian cityscapes. These structures held profound cosmological significance, often being built with precise astronomical alignments. Ziggurats were designed to mirror the celestial order, with their corners aligned to the cardinal points of the compass, paying homage to the heavens and symbolizing the connection between the earthly and divine realms. The Sumerians believed in a hierarchical cosmic order where the divine and mortal realms were intricately interconnected. They viewed the universe as a structured continuum, with the gods residing in the heavens above and humans inhabiting the earthly plane. This belief fostered a sense of responsibility to maintain harmony and appease the deities through offerings and prayers. Their strange creation myth. One of the biggest mysteries of the ancient Sumerian culture appears to be that of the inspiration and tale of their mysterious creation myth. According to the ancient Sumerians, their oldest scriptures tell of the earth being inhabited by human-like gods that had come from the stars. These beings made attempts to make the world habitable and quickly began to toil the soil and mine the world for minerals that could be used. After a while, the gods referred that their labor was too great and refused to have to work at such an impossible task on their own. This led to one of the gods proposing to create human beings that could be made in their likeness using the body of another god of whom they could force to work to gather minerals and toil the ground. Originally, the humans that had been created were unable to reproduce and have children, as the gods were fearful of them multiplying. However, this quickly changed after two gods granted humans the ability to reproduce, allowing them to also leave the Eden they inhabited, a land that is translated to mean a flat terrain. This angered one of the gods, leading to a massive conflict to which one of the gods became the enemy of man, and the other became the ruler of man, and allowed them to be fruitful and multiply over the world. These terms of modifications, creation, and the formation of an Eden have left many wondering instead that perhaps these ancient biblically similar accounts are evidence of advanced beings having genetically created and modified humans as a labor force only to be given equal rights and abilities that have slowly evolved. The mysterious origin of their language. Though many aspects of the ancient Sumerian origins are shrouded in mystery, there is none more so mysterious than that of the origin and formation of the ancient Sumerian spoken language that is possibly among one of the oldest spoken and written languages in the history of humanity. When the first few written artifacts were gathered from that of the ancient Sumerian civilization, many believed that the spoken language of the ancient civilization was that of Akkadian, a language used by the Semitic people throughout the region, as the written alphabet of cuneiform seemed to have matched the Akkadian writings and styles. Further gathered evidence proved that the language of the people was a distinct language now completely forgotten, with no surviving remnants of the spoken dialect that predated the Akkadian usage, as well as being the first formed written language in history, soon being adopted by the Semitic people and used as a written language for many more millennia after the fall of the ancient Sumerian civilization. This loss of the language have left many experts puzzling over its formation, influence, and possible similar-sounding language descendants in the modern day to trace the evolution of language across humanity. Though it was, at one time, believed that the Akkadian language was similar to that of the Sumerian, given the adoption of cuneiform, it is now known that the language may not have sounded anything alike and seems to be a relic of the past, with no evidence or trace of such a dialect existing in the modern day. Uncovering the mysteries of the language could prove to help researchers to better understand the formation of languages, the evolution of languages over time, as well as the major influences that the ancient Sumerian civilization had, being one of the first ever civilizations to have risen around the world. Throughout history, various ancient civilizations and cultures have left behind intriguing artifacts and symbols that continue to baffle archaeologists and historians. One enigmatic motif that has captured attention is the depiction of a handbag in ancient carvings, sculptures, and artworks found across different countries and cultures. Interestingly, a man came forward and said that he discovered one of these handbags in the Middle East. He went on to detail that he's a digger that looks for ancient artifacts and notes that many of his discoveries have been sent to museums across the world. He shared this photograph with us, saying that it was his most recent discovery and that it closely resembled those handbags that can be seen in ancient Sumerian carvings. The man said that the handbag is a symbol characterized by its distinct shape and handle, and has been discovered in diverse regions and time periods. From ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia, from Mesoamerica to Easter Island, representations of this enigmatic object have been unearthed, suggesting a shared significance across vast distances and cultural boundaries. The handbag appears in reliefs, statues, and hieroglyphs, raising questions about its symbolic meaning and potential cultural exchange. Oddly enough, he said that when he discovered this artifact, someone approached him about buying it. He found this strange, as at the time he didn't tell anyone about the discovery, and found it odd how this individual knew about this object. The digger said the man was very keen to buy it and asked whether anyone had seen it, at which point he said that he hadn't shared any photographs of it. What the man found strange about this individual was how badly they wanted this artifact, and the digger said that to this day this was the most expensive item he sold, saying that the mysterious individual gave him tens of thousands of dollars for it. When the digger asked the man about his name and where he was from, he said that the strange individual ignored him, but did say that before he left, the man said that if he found any more of these items, that he would be in contact. The digger found this strange, as he had never seen this man before and couldn't understand where he came from and how he knew about this discovery. Luckily enough, the digger had taken some photographs of the objects shortly before he was approached and was able to share them with us. As of right now, the digger is baffled by the experience and couldn't understand why the man wanted the object so desperately. He didn't take a photograph of him, but did describe him as being very tall, wearing a black suit with black shoes and talking in a very monotone voice. He said that he's never seen the man before and that he didn't blend in with anyone from the area. The digger said that he has no idea where the artifact was taken or whether it was purchased by a museum or for himself. Scholars and researchers have proposed various interpretations for the handbag symbol. Some believe it represents a vessel of power or knowledge carrying the secrets of ancient civilizations or spiritual wisdom. Others associate it with the concept of rebirth, symbolizing the journey of the soul or the transition between different realms. The handbag has also been linked to prosperity, suggesting a connection to rituals or beliefs related to sustenance and growth. The presence of the handbag symbol across different cultures and geographical locations highlights the possibility of cross-cultural connections and exchanges in ancient times. It suggests that ancient civilizations might have shared ideas, concepts, or even physical artifacts through trade routes, migrations, or cultural interactions. The symbolic journey of the handbag implies a common thread that unites seemingly disparate cultures in their understanding of the world and its mysteries. The handbag symbol has sparked numerous theories and speculations. Some propose advanced influence, suggesting that ancient civilizations received advanced knowledge or technology from otherworldly beings. Others interpret it as a symbol of a lost civilization or an ancient global culture that predates known history. However, these theories remain speculative, and further research and archaeological evidence are necessary to provide conclusive explanations. The enigmatic handbag symbol found in ancient carvings across cultures and countries continues to captivate the imagination and provoke questions about our shared human experience. Its presence suggests a common language of symbolism that transcended time and geographic boundaries. While interpretations vary, the handbag remains a potent symbol representing mystery, power, and hidden knowledge. Unraveling its true meaning requires interdisciplinary research, comparative analysis, and a deeper understanding of the cultures that left behind these ancient depictions. The handbag symbol invites us to embark on a symbolic journey, connecting the threads of humanity's past and offering a glimpse into the universal concepts that unite us. The ancient Sumerians, who inhabited the land of Mesopotamia, present-day southern Iraq, between the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE, were a remarkable civilization that laid the foundation for many aspects of human culture and civilization. Central to their worldview was a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. The Sumerian pantheon was a complex assembly of gods and goddesses, with each deity holding specific dominion over various realms. Among the prominent deities were Anu, the god of the heavens, Enlil, the lord of the air and storms, and Inanna, the goddess of love. The divine hierarchy established the power dynamics among the gods, with Enlil often regarded as the highest authority. Sumerian mythology featured captivating creation stories and narratives that explained the origins of the universe and humanity. One of the most renowned tales is the Enuma Elish, which describes the struggle for supremacy between the gods, culminating in the creation of the world. Another notable myth involves the epic hero Gilgamesh, who embarks on a quest for immortality, showcasing themes of mortality, friendship, and the nature of divinity. The gods played a significant role in Sumerian society, influencing various aspects of life, from governance and law to agriculture and warfare. The king, as the representative of the gods on earth, held a sacred role and derived his authority from divine endorsement. Legal codes and administrative systems were established with the gods' guidance, ensuring justice, order, and social harmony. Additionally, the gods were invoked for protection, success in battle, and bountiful harvests. Sumerian religion and mythology had a profound impact on subsequent cultures in Mesopotamia and beyond. One of the most significant contributions of the Sumerians was the development of the first known writing system, known as cuneiform. Using wedge-shaped impressions on clay tablets, Sumerian scribes recorded economic transactions, religious texts, historical accounts, and literature. Cuneiform was a complex system that allowed for the dissemination of knowledge, fostering the growth of literature and the preservation of cultural heritage. The Sumerians established some of the earliest known legal codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu and the Code of Lipit-Ishtar, which laid the groundwork for later legal systems. These codes emphasized justice, fairness, and the protection of individual rights. Additionally, the Sumerians developed administrative systems, with officials responsible for taxation, record-keeping, and maintaining public infrastructure. These innovations facilitated governance and the efficient management of a growing society. The Sumerians had a rich and complex religious belief system centered around polytheism. They worshipped a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. Their religious rituals and ceremonies played a vital role in society, ensuring the well-being and prosperity of their communities. The legacy of the Sumerians extends far beyond their own civilization. Their inventions and cultural achievements heavily influenced later civilizations in Mesopotamia and beyond. The cuneiform script spread to other cultures, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Legal principles and administrative systems developed by the Sumerians provided a blueprint for future governance structures. Sumerian myths and religious motifs influenced the pantheons and beliefs of subsequent cultures. The Sumerians laid the groundwork for the development of urbanization, agriculture, and complex social structures, leaving an indelible mark on human history. The Sumerians harnessed their ingenuity to improve agricultural practices and maximize productivity. They constructed intricate irrigation systems, such as canals and dikes, to divert water from rivers and distribute it to their fields. This allowed for year-round cultivation, enhancing crop yields and supporting a growing population. The use of the plough, pulled by oxen, revolutionized farming by facilitating efficient tilling of the soil and preparing it for planting. The Sumerians were skilled in working with metals, particularly copper and bronze. They developed techniques to extract and refine these metals, enabling the production of tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Copper and bronze alloys were employed in the creation of intricate jewelry, statuettes, and ornamental items, showcasing the Sumerians' artistic sensibilities and craftsmanship. The Sumerians recognized the importance of transportation and trade for their expanding civilization. They constructed road networks connecting various city-states and established river trade routes, utilizing boats and barges to transport goods along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Their mastery of watercraft allowed for efficient movement of goods, facilitating trade with distant regions and fostering cultural exchange. Sumerian architecture reflected their advanced understanding of engineering principles. They constructed impressive structures using mud bricks, designing multi-story buildings with flat roofs and intricate facades. The Sumerians developed innovative construction methods, including the use of arches, vaults, and buttresses, which provided stability and allowed for the construction of monumental edifices such as ziggurats and city walls. Joseph of Cupertino levitation. Saint Joseph of Cupertino is a character of legend. It's reported that by his mid-20s, he was able to take to the skies and float around effortlessly. The beginning of Joseph's life was truly challenging and tragic. For one, his father passed away, leaving a mountain of debt that caused his family home to be confiscated. His mother was forced to give birth to him in a shed behind that house, inside which they hid from the creditors. She was far from capable of truly caring for Joseph, as he needed her to physically, mentally, and emotionally. She was unable to feed him well, and he was undernourished and sickly from the beginning. She became frustrated with him and could not hold back abusing him and taking out her frustrations on him. Later in life, Joseph was unable to learn at school or in an apprenticeship with a shoemaker. Many people who met Joseph supposedly reported him as dull and absent-minded, unable to form thoughts into speech and communicate like his peers. In fact, the only thing he seemed interested and capable of was becoming a servant of a monastery. He was transformed by this, became much gentler and kinder, and began begging for the poor. In time, he would be given another chance and become a Catholic priest in 1628. Many occurrences of Joseph's flights from then on are proclaimed. He was said to have flown up to plant a cross into its socket for some labourers, soar into the sky and hover over a crowd of people during a feast, and was even witnessed levitating by Pope Urban VIII. This earned him the nickname the Flying Saint. He was also reported to unblind and cure many sick children, so much so that the ill began to seek him out. Miracle of the Sun in Fatima. In 1917 in Fatima, Portugal, many people claimed to have witnessed the sun moving. As they looked up into the sky, it became a well-defined, dull, great white disk which spun around and moved about the sky above them. Some witnesses say they saw the sun come closer to them, while others saw everything in a deep amethyst colour. One thing is for sure though, this was no ordinary Friday. Around noon that day in Fatima, spectators of the phenomenon began to see a change in the atmospheric conditions. Prior to this, it had been muddy and wet, and the air around them seemed to change. Then, as described by one man who was present, the sun started breaking. Nobody had any clue what was going on, and their view of our nearest star began warping and shifting. It appeared to spin and whir around in the sky, changing colours, and some thought it even came closer to the earth. The wind started to blow, witnesses began to confess their sins, and soon enough they realised the ground was dry. Their clothes were also dry. Many witnesses of this event believe it to be a true miracle, and supposedly the event quelled a growing atheist population at the time. Skeptics would probably point to optical distortions caused by clouds called sundogs, visual disturbances caused by staring at the sun, or even some sort of collective delusion. After all, there is no evidence that it rained as much as some witnesses claimed it did. Also, if the sun itself began moving and changing, it's likely that some of the millions of other people below the same sun would have reported the same things. All these people in Fatima, however, were there to witness a miracle told in Christian prophecy. It's quite possible that while expecting to witness a miracle, they happened to see some disturbances in their optical view of the sun due to clouds of ice crystals or stratospheric dust. While possible that reports such as that of seeing a violet hue over everything were due to retinal damage from staring at the sun for too long, the biggest hole in the story is that most of the reports of the event have differing details. Some saw purple everywhere. Some others saw a blue and yellow sun, and some say it was brighter, clearer, and closer. Regardless of what you truly believe occurred in Fatima in October of 1917, the phenomenon is historic and mystical.
Iron Crown of Lombardy. According to historians, the Iron Crown of Lombardy was made during the early Middle Ages in the 4th or 5th century. It consists of a large ring of gold that is fitted with a silver band and some precious jewels, all fitted around an iron ring. It is believed that the Iron Crown contains a 1 centimetre wide iron band that was beaten out of one of the nails used at the crucifixion of Jesus. The crown became a symbol of the Kingdom of Lombards. Later, it was in the custody of the medieval Kingdom of Italy and was used for the coronation of kings in Italy during the 11th and 14th century. Today, this mysterious ancient relic is present in the Cathedral of Monza, which is located near Milan in Italy. According to the popular tradition, the crown was made by Saint Helena, who was the mother of Constantine the Great. She had discovered a nail from the true cross when she ordered to forge a crown around the beaten nail. She believed that it would bring blessings and good fortune to her son. Later, the crown was passed to Theodolena, who was a princess of the Lombards. She received it as a gift from Pope Gregory the Great. In 628 AD, Princess Theodolena donated the crown to the church in Monza. There has been a strong argument amongst the religious scholars over the authenticity of the nail that was used to forge the crown. To this day, there is no consensus about its authenticity. However, it is kept at the Cathedral of Monza just outside of Milan and is considered to be a sacred relic. According to the cathedral authorities, the inner iron ring of the crown is in perfect condition and has shown no signs of rusting, despite being made thousands of years ago. In one of the studies conducted in 1985, it was revealed that magnets do not get attracted to the crown's iron ring. Like many other artifacts associated to Jesus, this artifact is also likely to be a subject of debate amongst historians as well as the religious scholars for many decades to come.
Gabriel Amorth was a Catholic priest and the chief exorcist of the Vatican. He was born in Modena, Italy, in 1925 and was ordained a priest in 1954. Amorth became involved in exorcism in the 1980s and was appointed as the chief exorcist of the Vatican in 1986, a position he held until his passing in 2016. Amorth was known for his outspoken views on the subject of possession and the practice of exorcism. He estimated that he had personally conducted tens of thousands of exorcisms during his career and was a strong advocate for the Catholic Church's teachings on the reality of the devil and the need for exorcisms. Perhaps one of the most terrifying things he said during his life was that he believed the devil was inside the Vatican. In an interview with the Italian newspaper La Repubblica, Father Gabriele Amorth, a leading exorcist in the Catholic Church, defends his work, as well as that of the Association of Exorcists. According to Amorth, Although the devil is not omnipresent, his presence can cause immense pain and suffering. The ritual of exorcism is a complex and challenging process that requires the full will of a man, and detailed that this can have physical and psychological effects on the human body, many of which you never recover from. As per his claim, he has successfully treated more than 70,000 cases of demonic possession. The evil spirit is believed to be pure spirit, and thus is considered invincible. When a person is possessed by the devil, they are often heard blurting out painful blasphemies. It is also said that the devil can remain hidden for long periods of time and can speak in different languages. These attributes of the devil are widely acknowledged, but those involved in this phenomena have said that you need to be incredibly well versed in order to be able to take on this entity. According to Father Amorth, he has the ability to transform himself, but at the time admitted that he was not scared of this gift. During his time as an exorcist, he carried around artifacts in a small pouch and believed that God had chosen him for this work. However, when he was asked if the devil could strike inside Vatican City, Father Amorth became serious and started to show slight discomfort. Despite his fearlessness, at the time he understood the gravity of the question and the potential consequences of such an encounter with this entity. This highlights the importance of spiritual protection in even the most holy of places. The individual in question has a history of attempts to cause harm to religious figures, particularly those of the Catholic faith. Back in 1981, Father Amorth detailed that the devil attacked John Paul II. Father Amorth said that although this dark entity was inside the Vatican, he never feared it and always felt like God was behind him. He said that it's for this reason that he kept the position of lead exorcist for so long, and detailed that many people were cured during his time at the church, noting that after they were fixed, they never exhibited any other problems. Demonic possession is a topic that is often debated, and opinions may vary depending on cultural, religious, and scientific beliefs. From a religious or spiritual perspective, demonic possession is typically seen as a serious and real phenomenon that requires intervention from a trained exorcist or spiritual leader. In some cultures, such as those with strong belief in the supernatural, demonic possession is taken very seriously and treated as a legitimate concern. From a scientific perspective, there is little evidence to support the existence of demonic possession. The symptoms attributed to possession can often be explained by natural causes. Regardless of one's beliefs, it is important to approach cases of suspected possession with compassion, empathy, and an open mind. The Catholic Church considers exorcism as a religious practice that involves the expulsion of evil spirits or demons from a person who is believed to be possessed. The Catholic Church has a specific set of guidelines for performing exorcisms, and only authorized priests who have received special training are allowed to perform them. The Catholic Church recognizes that demonic possession is a rare phenomenon, and they emphasize the importance of ruling out other possible explanations, such as natural illnesses, before attempting an exorcism. Before performing an exorcism, the priest is required to obtain permission from the bishop of their diocese, who will typically consult with medical professionals and mental health experts to confirm that there is no other explanation for the person's symptoms. During an exorcism, the priest will typically pray, read from the Bible, and use holy water and other religious objects to try to expel the demon. The exorcism may take place in a church or other religious setting, and the person being exorcised may be restrained to prevent harm to themselves or others. The Catholic Church stresses the importance of treating the person with compassion and respect during the exorcism process. Overall, the Catholic Church takes the issue of demonic possession seriously, but also recognizes the importance of approaching the issue with caution and discernment.
The Zozo Demon. The Zozo Demon is a spirit who you may not have heard of. This mysterious and newly discovered entity is not one to take lightly, and the story of its existence is as frightening as it is interesting. The Zozo Demon is a mischievous spiritual entity that makes contact with humans through the use of Ouija boards. Those who have reported to come into contact with Zoho state that he reveals himself by guiding those using the Ouija board into making figure eights, before moving frantically between the letters Z and O. Zozo's interactions with humans often begin friendly and cordial, but they soon turn frightening. Zoho has been reported to curse and threaten those who are present at the Ouija board. Believers in the existence of Zoho state that he has his origins in ancient times, dating back to societies from thousands of years ago in Africa. Still, his beginnings are shrouded in mystery. However, the first textual reference to Zoho first happened in 1818, in a book with the story of a young village girl who stated that she had been possessed by 3 different demons called Mimi, Crapule, and one named Zozo. In 2009, after years of obscurity, the demonic presence of Zozo began to undergo significant popularity through the work of a man named Darren Evans. Evans, a man from Oklahoma in the United States, claimed that he had come into contact with a demon called Zozo. Evans published his accounts through a website. In his post, Evans detailed how he had been interested in ghosts and the occult from a young age. Still, he admitted he had never seen or experienced anything like the demon Zozo. Zozo was different. Evans stated that Zozo revealed himself regularly, too many times to count. Zozo would adopt the presence of a friendly spirit before changing to more aggressive behavior, often cursing in what Evans described as looked like Latin or Hebrew. I was genuinely fascinated and startled by how many times Zozo showed up, even in many different states and many different Ouija boards, Evans wrote in his famous post. He continued to assert that Zozo also made many threats against his young daughter, who was still a toddler. Evans claims that Zozo nearly drowned her in the bathtub and infected her with an unknown affliction or illness. He stated this is when he began to suspect a demonic attack. The post by Evans soon started to gain traction among fans of the paranormal online. Readers began to tell their own stories, many with striking similarities to that of Evans. Whether or not you believe in Evans' story, many who fear the occult certainly do. In 2012, an independent feature film named I Am Zozo was released, which actually features a cameo by Darren Evans himself. Asag, the monstrous demon. Many demons that are reported to enact cruel punishments upon humans today actually trace their histories back to ancient Sumer. Sumer is the earliest known civilization to emerge from southern Mesopotamia, and the culture of Sumer was founded on stories of the Mesopotamian underworld, which was filled with a wide array of horrific demons. Asag, known for his ability to make fish boil alive in water just by his presence alone, is a monstrous and dangerous demon. Upon his arrival, Asag was believed to be accompanied into battle with his army of rock demon offspring. Asag is known to be a large, round creature with 3 legs and 3 arms. Asag also has no neck and features eyes covering his entire body. His skin is dark and hard to the touch, almost like rock. In Sumerian legend, Asag is believed to be the cause of disease and plague. He is the sworn enemy of Ninurta, the Sumerian god of war, and was eventually defeated by Ninurta after fighting for days on end. Fulfilling his role of plague and disease, Asag was believed to linger inside a person's body and had the ability to enrobe any unfortunate human like their clothing. There are particular references to his ability to cause head fevers and to eventually cause loss of muscle function in his victims. It is believed that Asag was supposed to represent or was born out of racism and fear of the ancient Sumerian people. The Zagros Mountains and the Sumer region were home to groups like the Kassites, Guti, Assyrians, Elamites, and Mitanni. These groups would raid and attack Sumerian cities, and were thought as less than human by the ancient Mesopotamians. The dark, destructive demon of Asag is a direct parallel to this. Perhaps Asag is simply a symbolic myth, or perhaps something much more sinister grew from the fears of the ancient Sumerians.
Unsolved mysteries have always intrigued people because they represent the unknown and the unexplained, which can be both fascinating and unsettling. Humans are naturally curious creatures, and we are always looking for answers to the questions that intrigue us. Soldiers share their mysterious encounters. Soldiers deserve the highest respect. Opinions aside, they go into areas where many of us will never tread, and they are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice. Something that many soldiers don't expect to happen is having mysterious encounters while on duty. In recent years, military personnel have come forward and detailed some of the strange things that they've experienced while on duty. One soldier titled their post as "Strange Encounter While on Duty." They said the following: "I was a young sergeant in 2001, and I was stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base. I would often guard equipment, and it's known that the area is highly sensitive. Most of the time I would be on guard, and nothing interesting would happen. There were many times that I would be bored, and the job would be repetitive, but that all changed when I had a mysterious encounter. At the time, there were 2 of us who were on patrol, and it was my partner who first noticed something strange. In the distance, he claimed he could see a red light, and that every so often it would pulsate. We were located near the outskirts of the base, and so thought that it may have been an aircraft in the distance. Around 10 minutes later, both of us witnessed the bright light descending nearby. The 2 of us hadn't seen these lights before, so naturally we were both suspicious of what this was. We couldn't make out any insignia or any propulsion system. The aircraft would rise again to around 100 feet in the air, and once the object was within our sight again, we got a much better look. It was like a huge ball of energy, and was as if someone had shrunk the sun. As the encounter continued, we started to notice a pattern. The object would fly around the base, descend, and then fly into the air again, and it kept doing this over and over. While it was doing this repetitive motion, it was making no sound, and it was hard for us to keep track of it, because once it descended, we would lose sight of it. After this, the object darted towards us, and must have stopped within 40 feet, at which point we were able to see some closer details. This thing was a perfect sphere, and moved around at extreme speeds, but the strangest thing was that it moved in an angular way, like if you were playing an old computer game and you had drawn out lines and then the object would follow those lines. It's hard to describe, but the movement wasn't fluid. It wasn't like a plane that has to turn slowly in order to maneuver, or a balloon that gets taken by the wind. Every time this object moved, it was always at an angle. Although the movements of this thing were jarring, the speeds it was hitting were incredible, and if you blinked, it would be in a completely different place. It was like the light would turn off and then reappear in another part of the sky. After around 10 minutes, the object just vanished, and we were no longer able to see it. It made me think that if my partner had not pointed out the strange light in the first place, then it's likely that I wouldn't have noticed it, especially because it made no noise. Our chief sergeant pulled me in for a conversation after catching wind of what we had encountered, and honestly, it didn't go the way I thought it would. I was thinking that I would be put down and told that I didn't see anything, but instead, those who were in the room seemed interested in the sighting. When I asked what this thing was and whether anyone else had seen it, I got very little back, but was told at the end that it would be best if I kept this to myself. Although nothing super eventful happened, I never got closure on what the object was, and still to this day think about how that strange light was able to hit the speed it did." End quote. Interestingly, there have been many reported sightings of a massive legendary creature that's been described as looking like a large humanoid. They are mostly sighted in remote areas, sometimes in urban areas, and very rarely in city parks. However, the most unlikely place you would think to see one of these creatures is near a military base. Throughout the years, there have been a few reports that have leaked from military installations, mostly those around the 1970s. By far the most notable and the most credible is that of an encounter near Fort Lewis in the United States. This is an Army military installation in Washington state, which is in the middle of a rather large wooded area. The year was 1978. A truck full of soldiers coming back from training exercises broke down at around 8 in the evening. Attempts were made to restart the engine, but nothing worked, so the platoon headed off to the base on foot to bring back a tow truck. They left one Edwin Godoy to guard the truck until the tow truck arrived. He was left because he was the one who had signed out the truck. Edwin spent hours by himself just sitting in the truck. He was bored, but his evening would soon perk up. At around midnight, he began to hear strange sounds from the forest that this road cut through. The sounds continued to get louder and closer, prompting Edwin to get out of the truck arming himself with a rifle and a flashlight. As he stood in front of the truck, sweeping the sides of the woods with his flashlight, he caught a glimpse of a large object moving directly in front of the truck. It was a tall, broad creature entirely covered in hair that walked by swinging its body sideways. When Irvin shined his light at it, it stopped in its tracks and stared directly at him. They locked eyes for a short time before the creature began to run at him at a bafflingly quick speed. Irvin shouted 3 times for the creature to stop and identify itself. However, the beast didn't reply and got close enough to cause harm to Edwin. Gripped with fear, he shot the creature in the chest. This barely stopped the speed of the animal. It merely growled, grabbed its chest, and turned to the right and went back into the forest. In a few seconds, it was gone. After a long and fearful night, the mechanics finally arrived. After Edwin conveyed what happened, they were quite skeptical, until one spotted the blood trail that led to massive footprints pressed into the nearby soft ground. Shortly after, a radio call was made to the base explaining what had happened, and after doing this, the area was swamped with secretive government scientists in hazardous material suits. These researchers then began taking blood samples and setting casts of the footprints. The whole time, Edwin was told not to speak to anyone and was kept away from what was going on. Edwin was quickly taken away to the base hospital, but surprisingly, instead of being examined by the base's medical staff, he was examined by a doctor from the Air Force that held the rank of full colonel. Years later, Edwin went on to reveal in an interview after the event had been declassified that rather than interrogating him, the colonel was very interested in every slight detail of the event. After which, Edwin was returned to his barracks and told in no circumstances was he to tell anyone what happened. The NASA employee who went missing in the Grand Canyon. Back on the 17th of June 2016, a man by the name of Floyd Roberts III had gone on a hiking trip with a longtime friend of his, Ned Bryant, and his friend's daughter, Madeline Bryant. However, after several hours of hiking together, Floyd suddenly disappeared from the group. As the weeks went on and the investigation into the matter was never resolved, many began to wonder what exactly happened to Floyd Roberts within the very short span of time that he had wandered away from his group. According to Ned Bryant, he and Floyd had been lifelong friends since they were 10 years old, when they first met each other back in Princeton, New Jersey. Their friendship was so close that many would often think that Ned and Floyd were actually brothers. Their friendship would even coalesce and maintain throughout their entire lives, with Floyd Roberts serving as Ned's best man during his wedding several years prior. Unfortunately, due to work requirements and job opportunities, the two men were unable to live close to each other, with Floyd Roberts eventually moving out to the city of Huntsville, Alabama, where he spent a short period of time working as a software engineer for the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. After a short time of working for NASA, Floyd Roberts moved once more to work as a computer programming and game design teacher at Middleton High School, located in Treasure Island, Florida. However, throughout this time, Floyd and Ned decided to stay close friends and would meet up regularly to do an activity together. It was back in 1992 when Floyd and Ned decided that they would start hiking around the Grand Canyon a few times a year, as it would be a fun activity for them to both do that would also allow them to take a break from their lives momentarily and get some much-needed exercise. These routine hiking trips would continue for over the next 20 years together, where the two men became highly experienced campers and hikers, familiar with the Grand Canyon as it was their only hiking route. Even more interesting, the two men were so interested in hiking that they would often travel alone in their free time whenever the other was unable to join, showing that both men had experience navigating the known pathways of the area, even when isolated and on their own. Several years later, Ned Bryant and a few other members of his family became board members of the Grand Canyon Hikers and Backpackers Association, often sharing tips with each other on the best pathways and means of travel throughout the area, and having been trained in travel safety when hiking through isolated parts of the Grand Canyon. Confident that the two would be perfectly safe during their journey, the men planned to take one of their longest hiking and camping trips yet, choosing to spend 9 days hiking through the Shivwitz Plateau, a pathway that would lead them out of the area through the Separation Canyon. Although the region was a typically less popular area to travel through, their decided route was considered to have been largely very safe, without any major pitfalls or ravines close to their trails. Additionally, the two men decided that the beginning of the journey would be the most relaxed and planned on spending the first couple of days camping alongside the major river in the area before making their way out of the canyon. After careful consideration, the two men planned their trip and decided that their hike would end after 9 days on the 26th of June, 2016. At the last minute, Ned's daughter, Madeline Bryant, decided to join the group, and so the group decided that the easiest path down towards the river they had wanted to camp beside for a few days was to first reach the Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument when entering from the furthest western portion of the Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon Parashant National Monument is considered to be a remote location and terribly underdeveloped given the lack of tourists that tend to visit the area. According to official park services, there are no known paved roads or laid-out trails leading to the National Monument and no visitor services of any kind. Regardless, the group decided the open area and the lack of tourists would be a perfect staging ground to enter towards the river without the stress of strangers crowding around the area. Once the group was several miles away from the main trailhead of the area, the three travelers found themselves traveling over a large hill. Given Floyd Roberts' preference for a longer traveling time to help take in the scenery, he decided that he would take the slow, rounding trail that followed the contours of the hill to reach the trailhead, whereas Madeline and Ned decided that a straight path over the hill would allow them to reach the trailhead faster and give them time to relax and take a quick rest. At around 4:45 in the afternoon, the group separated, with Ned and his daughter taking a straight-line path, and Floyd Roberts following the trail that wrapped around the side of the hill. Several minutes later, Ned and Madeline would reach the trailhead and decide to take a short rest, waiting for Floyd Roberts to catch up to them. However, after about 20 minutes of waiting, the two started to worry that something had happened, and immediately began retracing their steps to look for Floyd Roberts, who they assumed must have gotten lost somewhere along the contouring path. After spending several hours looking for Floyd Roberts, the two decided that it was too dark and dangerous for them to continue their search, and so made a campsite near the trailhead meeting spot in the hopes that Floyd Roberts would be able to locate them by their fire. Unfortunately, the two said that it appeared as if Floyd had just completely disappeared, and so Ned and Madeline hiked their way to the nearest area with cell phone reception to report Floyd Roberts as missing. The two reported Floyd Roberts' disappearance at around 3 in the afternoon on Saturday, June 18th. Almost immediately, a team of search and rescue working for the national park started their search for Floyd Roberts, covering a 10-mile radius of where he had last been seen by Ned Bryant and his daughter. The search and rescue originally showed up for the search efforts in high spirits, believing that Roberts would have been recovered quickly, given the fact that the weather in the area did not drop anywhere near freezing temperatures and stayed relatively high throughout the day and night. Additionally, Floyd Roberts had been carrying a week's supply of food and over 2 gallons of water in his backpack at the time of his disappearance, so it was believed that he would have more than enough supplies and years of experience to help him navigate his way towards help, if necessary. Over the next few days, an estimated 15 people were involved with the search and rescue of Floyd Roberts, with a team of sniffer dogs used to follow his scent. It was at around this time that a set of footprints had been discovered that followed down the direction of the trail that Ned and his daughter Madeline had claimed Floyd was last seen traveling down. As the dogs followed the trail, it appeared as if they had locked onto the scent of Roberts and continued in the direction of the footprints for several hundred feet before they suddenly stopped. Search and rescuers then noticed that the footprints of Floyd Roberts seemed to have suddenly disappeared, as if Roberts had been walking and then rose into the air and vanished. It was at this point that the National Park Service rescue helicopter was used to get aerial views of the surrounding 10-mile radius, but were unable to locate any signs of someone having fallen down any side paths or in any known areas. After 6 days of frantic searching and thousands of man-hours, the search and rescue for Floyd Roberts slowed down to a passive search. To this day, no sign of Roberts has been recovered. According to official search and rescue reports, Floyd Roberts was last seen wearing a red long-sleeved shirt, blue denim jeans, a large blue low alpine contour backpack, white-rimmed sunglasses with orange lenses, and 2 gallons of water with enough food to last him about a week. The disappearance of Margaret Mary Cola. On the 20th of February, back in 2011, a 53-year-old woman by the name of Margaret Cola would suddenly vanish after planning a short daytime visit to the Cummins Creek wilderness. Although investigators originally thought that Margaret's case was that of an inexperienced hiker traveling too deep within the national park forest, investigators would soon realize that Margaret Cola would frequently travel to the Cummins Creek wilderness to forage for wild mushrooms and truffles. According to Margaret's friend, Mrs. Cola had become quite familiar with the region and would often take weekly trips to the area with her 5-year-old Labrador Border Collie mix named Roscoe. Growing up in the seaside city of Waldport, Oregon, Margaret Cola had become highly experienced with the outdoors, Cummins Creek wilderness, and the surrounding trails, and was known by her friends and family as having been an avid hiker. Yet regardless of her vast amount of wilderness experience and her many safety precautions, Margaret Cola would seemingly vanish with no trace of her left behind. The search for Margaret would begin on the day of her disappearance after her friend contacted the local sheriff's department and claimed that she was unable to make contact with Mrs. Cola at their scheduled time. Due to her frequently traveling alone, Margaret was worried that if she did not take the necessary precautions, she could end up injured and stranded out in the national park without anyone knowing she was gone. It was for this very reason that Margaret told her friend prior to her trip that she was planning on taking Roscoe for a walk near the Cape Perpetua area. Although the last time Margaret had been seen was on the 19th of February, after getting an expected time frame of Margaret's itinerary from her friend, detectives were able to put an accurate time to when Margaret Cola had arrived in the area, believed to have been during the early morning. Within only 8 hours of her disappearance, the Lane and Lincoln County Sheriff's Department, alongside the United States Forest Service and the Oregon State Police, would begin their search and rescue efforts for Margaret and Roscoe. Oddly enough, after scouring several parking lots and common stops, the search and rescue teams were unable to locate Margaret Cola's vehicle. Given the fact that the investigators were unsure which trail Margaret Cola had followed, it made it increasingly difficult for search and rescue teams to efficiently check a tighter radius, forcing them to expand their search to a much larger area. Local volunteer groups had spent the better part of the first 2 days walking up and down the Cape Perpetua area, but were unable to find any tracks or signs of Margaret Cola having visited anywhere in the region. With the lack of any sign of Margaret's vehicle or equipment anywhere near the region, investigators started to wonder whether or not the missing hiker was even within the park. For this reason, in conjunction with the search and rescue efforts, the local sheriff's department would keep out a missing persons file for any information relating to Margaret's disappearance, worried that she could have been the victim of foul play or could have gotten into a car accident in an isolated area. It would be due to these suspicions that the search and rescue efforts were temporarily reduced over the course of about 2 weeks. It would not be until the 3rd of March that proof of Margaret having arrived in the park was found. According to the United States Forest Service, one of the Forest Service law enforcement officers had found Margaret's van on the side of Forest Service Road 1051 in the Cummins Ridge Trail area. The Cummins Ridge Road was a far deeper major pathway that was only accessible after driving south through an area known as Neptune State Scenic Viewpoint, past a coastal area named the Devil's Churn due to its history of supernatural sightings. Inexperienced hikers would not have been able to see that the small trail opens up into a much larger pathway, and so investigators were certain that Margaret must have visited the area several times in the past to know exactly how much room there would be for her vehicle. The vehicle itself was completely unoccupied, and after having been searched, a park receipt would be located that would confirm that Margaret Cola had reached the park sometime on the 20th of February. Immediately after the vehicle was discovered by the United States Forest Service law enforcement officer, a massive search would be conducted in the area for a 10-mile radius. Unfortunately, despite more than 50 volunteers involved in the search, no sign of Margaret or her dog Roscoe was uncovered. On the following day, a team of bloodhounds were brought to the abandoned vehicle to help find a trackable scent. However, due to the tremendous gap in time from Margaret's initial disappearance and the discovery of her vehicle, the experienced canine teams were unable to locate a scent they could track. Oddly enough, on the 5th of March, more than 2 weeks since Margaret had disappeared, roughly 2.2 miles south of where Margaret's abandoned vehicle was located, local search and rescue volunteers would find Roscoe casually walking along the area of 10 Mile Creek. Once investigators took a closer look at Roscoe, they were surprised to find that the dog appeared to have been in perfect health. Deputies with the Lincoln County Sheriff's Office would make several attempts to get Roscoe to lead them to where Margaret may have been, but the dog seemed too playful and easily distracted, making it impossible for search and rescuers to get the dog to lead them back to Margaret. To this day, no sign of Margaret Cola has even been uncovered. Oddly enough, across many of the bizarre missing 411 disappearances, it's commonly reported that during a sudden vanishing, hikers who travelled with a dog will often have their canines show up several days after their disappearance, but with no sign of the hiker ever being uncovered. Even more peculiar, the returning canines will often seem to be in perfect condition, regardless of the weather conditions or the number of days missing, as if no time had passed for them in the interim. The disappearance of Keith Zunke. On the 24th of October, back in 1981, a 21-year-old man by the name of Keith Zunke would be reported missing after a very bizarre set of suspicious circumstances had occurred, leading many of the investigators surrounding the incident wondering what really happened. Not only would the circumstance of Keith's disappearance be extraordinarily peculiar, the legal documents surrounding Keith's disappearance would also appear to be mishandled in various ways following his vanishing, leading to increasing difficulties for the young man's search. According to Keith's mother, when Keith was a young boy, he had suffered an undisclosed injury that would leave him crippled for the rest of his life and cause Keith to suffer from issues with typical neurodevelopment. Although the injury itself is not known in the modern day, by the time that he was a teenager, it became apparent to doctors that Keith would never be able to develop past a mental age of only 5 years old, suffering from an extensive amount of brain damage. Due to these developmental issues, Keith would eventually be forced to live in a group home by the time that he was an adult, located in Walla Walla, Washington, after his biological parents felt that they were unable to properly care for him. It would be shortly after his 21st birthday, while living in the Washington group home, that Keith would suddenly be at the center of a bizarre missing persons case that would be impossible to explain under normal circumstances. According to the official search and rescue document, it was on the 24th of October, back in 1981, while living at the Stone Creek Lodge group home located in Washington, that the group home administrators decided that taking a small trip together with all of the home's residents would be a nice change of pace for the residents. By that afternoon, all 39 residents would be driven to the Umatilla National Forest to go on a mountain hike through Oregon, east of the Cascade Range in the northeastern section of the state. The administrators of the home would later tell investigators that out of all of the residents, only 2 members objected to the trip and wished to stay at the group home instead. One of those 2 that would object would be Keith. Once at the Umatilla National Forest, Keith and another resident would both get into an argument with the administrators and refuse to continue with the hike any further, after walking a few hundred feet down a trail with the group. After the tantrum, the councillors would become fed up with Keith and the other unnamed resident, and would instruct them to return to the vehicle to wait in the car for the remainder of the trip due to their behaviour. However, at this point, the stories of the administrators and the residents begin to start cracking. According to some of the residents, Keith and the other unnamed resident had been accompanied with a group home administrator to return to the vehicle, though the other councillors and administrators on the trip would deny the claim and state that Keith and the other unnamed resident had travelled back to the vehicle while unsupervised. Once the group had finished with their hike and returned to the vehicle, they found the unnamed resident in the vehicle alone and with Keith nowhere to be found. Immediately, the councillors and administrators would question the unnamed resident, but were unable to get any reasonable information surrounding Keith's whereabouts, and so would soon contact the local law enforcement shortly after. Within the hour, the United States Forest Service and the local sheriff began a massive search for Keith, utilizing an estimated 500 search and rescue volunteers for the event. These volunteers included members from the local military, nearby law enforcement, native residents and teams of air support flying overhead for several hours a day looking for Keith. Unfortunately, despite searching non-stop for an estimated 10 days and covering nearly 50 square miles of area, no sign of Keith was ever recovered, and the search and rescue for the 21-year-old man would soon come to a standstill. It was at around this point that investigators began to grow suspicious of the parties involved. Keith's biological mother, Mrs. Rebecca Carroll, would give information to the investigators claiming that Keith had the mental age of a 5-year-old and would have been unable to have wandered very far from where he had last been seen. Given the fact that the other unnamed resident was also unable to provide any useful information, it appeared that the entire event held a few more skeletons in the closet. It would not be for another 30 years until news surrounding the case would come forward. According to the Huffington Post, the remains of Keith were discovered by a hiker during the summer of 2011. But what was left of Keith was so damaged and scattered, investigators were left with very little. Although the remains were easily identifiable as human, they appeared to have been partially buried in a shallow grave, forcing investigators to first confirm that the remains were not from a possible Native American burial site. After the remains were confirmed as not belonging to an old Native American burial ground, investigators removed the remains and sent them to a forensic anthropologist and Oregon State medical examiner. Unfortunately, very little could be done with what was left. According to the investigators, Keith was no longer classified as a missing person. This meant that any evidence surrounding his DNA was not kept, and so Keith's DNA was not on file to be compared with the discovered remains. Additionally, because of the state of the remains, the Oregon State medical examiner said that he was unable to confirm a cause for Keith's passing. No other information has surfaced surrounding the incident since the article was reported. The mysterious disappearance of Michael and Makana Gortler. On the 22nd of June, back in 2011, a father and daughter would suddenly vanish when going on a hike to the summit of Mount Missouri, located in the state of Colorado. Although the two experienced hikers would reach the summit at around 14,000 feet, their remains would tell a completely different story when investigators would conduct a thorough investigation into the matter. According to the missing persons report, 53-year-old Michael von Gortler and his daughter, 20-year-old Makana von Gortler, would leave their home in Boulder, Colorado on the 14th of June to spend the summer going on a series of hiking and climbing trails together over the span of about a week. Michael, who worked as an emergency room physician in the city of Boulder, Colorado, had often visited the nearby trails and mountain ranges over the years and had become quite an experienced outdoorsman, hiker and climber across the many Colorado mountain ranges. Additionally, Michael's daughter Makana, who studied out of the University of Colorado, majoring in ecology and evolutionary biology, would often spend her entire spring, summer and winter vacations between school going on long hiking and camping trips with her father to get pictures of the natural wildlife and ecology of the local area. Makana would also be considered by many close friends and family as having been extremely experienced in both hiking and climbing, and both Makana and her father were in excellent physical shape at the time of their disappearance. It was later uncovered by investigators that Michael and Makana would spend the majority of their week-long camping and hiking trip at the father's second home. Michael's second home was a small summer house located in the town of Buena Vista, roughly 150 miles west of Boulder. It was also believed that Michael and Makana would spend that first week together, traveling to the town of Telluride and attending the Bluegrass Festival before returning back home to the summer house in Buena Vista in order to make several preparations. It would be there that the two hikers would spend several days planning their trip to Mount Missouri, including acquiring several updated maps to help plan their routes, purchase and replace new equipment for their climbs, and stock up on extra emergency gear in the event of sudden bad weather conditions or any unforeseen issues. Although their precautions may have seemed too cautious, considering the fact that the two only had plans to camp around the base of Mount Missouri for a few days and then hike the summit of the mountain before returning back to the base of the mountain on a short day trip, Michael Gortler was known for being over-prepared when it came to hiking and camping journeys. Prior to their departure, Makana would send a text to her longtime boyfriend, a man by the name of Paul Casimir, that the two were headed up to a mountain trail with a summit measured at being 14,000 feet, but that her phone had been left on the roaming setting due to their cellular network connection being out of range, and that she would be unable to text or call as she wanted to avoid using data as her data plan was more expensive when it came to using roaming data. The text she had sent would later be confirmed with a local ABC News article, which would publish the text to the boyfriend. The text would read as follows: "I just got back to Buena Vista with my dad. I left my phone on roaming so I can't talk. We had a great time and we're going to try a 14er tomorrow. I'll be able to see you in a few days. I've missed you too." The 14er would be a reference to the height of the mountain, with Makana's cryptic message, meaning that the two would be attempting to climb a summit estimated around 14,000 feet. The night before their disappearance, on the 22nd of June, At around 12:23 in the morning, Makana would send one last text to her boyfriend Paul, which would state the following: "We're hiking Mount Missouri tomorrow, staying the night here, then driving back the 23rd. I will help my dad pack the next day, so I can see you on the 25th, and we can celebrate whatever month we're in now." After a few days passed, Paul would fail to get any reply or message back from either Michael or Makana, and would begin to worry that something strange had happened. By the 24th, Paul would grow increasingly disturbed by the lack of reply that he would reach out to Makana's mother, Michael's wife, Mrs. Dea von Gortler, and ask her when the two were expected to return back to Boulder and why the two were not returning his texts or phone calls. At first, Dea would reassure Paul that the two were most likely taking their time coming back from the trip and would return sometime on the 24th of June or the 25th, but that she would reach out to Michael and Makana to check up on them. After spending a few hours trying to reach her husband and daughter and failing to get in contact with them, Mrs. Dea von Gortler would contact the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department to report the two as missing and to do a checkup on their whereabouts. At first, the search for Michael and Makana went slowly, as investigators first wanted to confirm that the two were still in the area of Mount Missouri and not back at their Buena Vista summer home. After driving an estimated 3 hours to the summer house, Mrs. Dea von Gortler would confirm that her husband and daughter were missing, and after several hours of searching, the Chaffee County Sheriff's Department would locate and find Michael von Gortler's vehicle parked at the Mount Missouri parking lot located at the base of the mountain. Almost immediately upon finding the vehicle, the Sheriff's Department would organize one of the largest ground and aerial searches conducted in the state, alongside the local military and other law enforcement organizations. On the first day of the search, the nearby military base would utilize a state-of-the-art Black Hawk helicopter to help carry search and rescue volunteers near the summit of the three surrounding 14,000-foot mountains. While ferrying people, the military would also utilize thermal imaging cameras and other sensitive equipment in the hopes of locating the missing two hikers within the first few days. Over 40 search and rescue volunteers would be brought to the summits of the mountains, an estimated 12 volunteers per peak, and would help to cover over 1,000 feet in elevation that first day, but no sign of the missing hikers were found. Investigators were worried that their search efforts may have been in vain, as the area of the mountains and their summits were completely barren and held very little foliage, making it difficult to explain how it was that aerial support was unable to spot the brightly clothed pair from the sky anywhere along the route. Even more strange, an article published in the local news would also claim that by the 8th day of the search for the missing father and daughter, it was believed that search and rescue volunteers, the Sheriff's Department, United States National Forest Rangers, and the nearby military base had covered more than 800 square miles of terrain, both by ground and air, and were unable to find any sign of the missing pair. It would not be until the 10th day of the search that investigators would finally recover the missing father and daughter when the search helicopter was in the middle of depositing another group of search and rescue volunteers on the summit of Mount Missouri. According to the helicopter pilot, as he was descending onto the summit, the pilot claimed that he saw something incredibly unusual in the forest area directly below their passing location. Although the pilot would never describe what he saw that was considered distinctly unusual, rumors from search and rescue volunteers claimed that he saw what looked like a large figure in the area that seemed difficult to explain. Unsure of what it was that was seen, the pilot would send the volunteers into the area where they would find two individuals. According to the volunteers, the hikers were not immediately identified as belonging to Michael and Makana, as they were injured and disfigured beyond recognition. Though the pair would later be confirmed as having been the missing father and daughter, there was initially no declaration of their identities, and several other bizarre events would take place that would make missing 411 investigators suspicious as to the nature of the recovery. A group of search and rescue volunteers would claim that the couple were found in a forested area far from any ledges or cliffs, somewhere around the 12,000-foot elevation mark on the mountain. Another group would claim that they were found lying atop an open field of grass around the similar elevation mark. However, despite these conflicting stories, no confirmation of either account would be made, leading many missing 411 investigators with the suspicions that a bizarre cover-up had taken place. It would take another few days before the coroner could confirm the identity of the injured pair as belonging to Michael and Makana. However, even more peculiar, The coroner and sheriff's department worked together in order to provide an explanation of what happened to Michael and McCanna, as both the coroner and sheriff's department were confused as to the exact location where they were found and the exact nature of their demise. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Department would hold a press conference on the 5th of July, claiming that the discovery of where Michael and McCanna were found came as a total shock to the investigators. It was hard to understand how any accident could have occurred, as the von Gortlers had been at a high elevation and appeared to have been suffering from injuries inconsistent with a fall. Additionally, the sheriff's department would confirm that the weather had been exceptionally good at the time of their expected demise, as there was no measured wind, no clouds, and no sudden weather shifts that could have led to any accidents for the pair. In all considerations, the day of their disappearance was a perfect day for a short hike to the summit and back down. The most confusing statements would come from several interviewed searchers on a live broadcast from the NBC 9 Denver news station, which would claim that it was believed that the pair had to have reached the summit and fallen while they were descending the summit along a hiking trail. The searchers would claim that less than 200 feet from the summit, the pair fell. However, the Chaffee County Sheriff Pete Palmer would tell reporters that it was difficult to confirm the theory, as the distance and placement of the hikers was both too far and in too awkward of a location for the pair to have fallen from only 200 feet from the summit. The sheriff would also provide the statement to the news reporters, claiming that they were not sure where they were when they fell, as none of the information they had seemed to match up. In one report, searchers would claim they believed that the pair had fallen 200 feet from the summit while descending. Another report would claim that the bodies of the father and daughter were found in a densely forested area at the 12,000-foot elevation point. And a third report would claim that the pair were found much closer to the summit, laid out on grass. Even more peculiar, the coroner's office would claim that the damage and injuries of the pair were consistent only with a fall estimated to have been at least 1,000 feet in height at a 60-degree grade, which would have been impossible to have suffered from if only a few hundred feet from the summit, or at the 12,000-foot elevation point. Chaffee County Coroner Randy Ametis would also make several increasingly bizarre statements to reporters, claiming that the only thing known for certain was that Dr. Michael von Gortler and his daughter, McCanna von Gortler, had both passed away from blunt force trauma injuries to the head and neck at almost the exact same time. At first, the coroner believed there was evidence of burn or scorch marks, but would later confirm that there was no indication of injuries caused from lightning, a strange statement that seemed both unwarranted and inconsistent. Randy Ametis would also confirm that due to the condition of the pair, it was believed that the two had passed away on the 22nd of June, the same day that the hike had initially begun. Despite the inconsistent information and data, the coroner's office would confirm that the passings were officially declared as accidents, and it was believed that no crime had been committed. The coroners would provide relatives of the von Gortler with the explanation that the two had most likely been blown off the cliff from a significant gust of wind, despite reports of clear skies and low winds. However, one of the most difficult to explain aspects of the coroner's report were the lack of injuries to other parts of the hikers. According to the searchers, Michael and McCanna had to have fallen at least 1,000 feet to explain their injuries and location. At the height and steep grade, injuries would be expected to be seen across them, including small and large scrapes, bruises, torn clothes, and small and large rocks around their remains. However, the coroner's statements only included claims and descriptions that Michael and McCanna had died from blunt force trauma to their head and neck, without making any other statements about injuries to the torso, legs, or other regions of the body. Given the fact that Michael and McCanna, who were experienced hikers and climbers, were believed to have been on an easy trail at the time of their fall, Chaffee County Sheriff's Officer Pete Palmer would express disbelief at the mystery of their passings. A local article would publish a statement provided by the sheriff's officer and their skepticism in the middle of July, stating the following: "It hasn't been any kind of atrocious weather, and the other thing is both these people were experienced hikers," Chaffee County Sheriff Pete Palmer said. Palmer says that what happened is a complete mystery. While steep, the Missouri Mountain Trail is only ranked as a Type 2 climb, which is fairly mild. Authorities say it didn't appear the two had taken a fall. The search and rescue volunteers would also express confusion surrounding the location that the hikers were recovered. It seemed impossible to explain how the hikers were not found until the 10th day of the search in an area so close to the summit and believed to have been checked several times over by volunteers during the first week of the operation. Helicopters had also been flying in and around the area every single day since the disappearance, and not a single person had seen the pair in a location that the two were expected to have been hiking in. To this day, the mysterious passings of Michael and Makana von Gortler have been the subject of many theories and continue to be regarded as one of the most mysterious and unexplainable accidents recorded in the Colorado mountains. Humans have an innate curiosity to understand and solve puzzles. Unsolved mysteries offer a tantalizing challenge, and people are often drawn to them in an effort to solve the mystery and satisfy their curiosity. People are often fascinated by the unknown and unexplained. Unsolved mysteries represent a glimpse into a world of uncertainty and intrigue. The mystery of the Nemi ships. The Nemi ships were two ancient Roman ships that were discovered in Lake Nemi, near Rome, in the early 20th century. The larger of the two ships was over 70 meters long and was considered one of the largest ancient ships ever built. The Nemi ships were built by the Roman Emperor Caligula in the 1st century AD as floating palaces for his personal use. They were incredibly luxurious and had features such as heated baths, mosaic floors, and marble columns. The Nemi ships had heating systems. They were built with hypocausts, which were a type of underfloor heating system used in ancient Roman times. The hypocausts consisted of a series of channels and flues beneath the floors of the ships, which allowed hot air to circulate and warm the rooms. In addition to the hypocausts, the Nemi ships also had other heating features, such as furnaces and boilers, which were used to heat water for the baths and to provide heat for other areas of the ships. The heating systems of the Nemi ships were an impressive feat of engineering for their time, and they demonstrate the advanced technological capabilities of the ancient Romans. After Caligula's passing, the Nemi ships were scuttled in the lake and remained underwater for almost 2,000 years until they were discovered in the 1920s. The Italian government raised the ships from the lake in the 1930s and put them on display in a museum built specifically for them. Unfortunately, both of the Nemi ships were destroyed during World War II, and today only a few fragments remain. However, the story of the Nemi ships has captured the imagination of historians and the public alike, and they remain a fascinating example of ancient Roman engineering and extravagance. The Nemi ships are an example of brilliant engineering for their time. The ancient Romans were skilled shipbuilders and engineers, and the Nemi ships were a testament to their expertise. The Nemi ships were some of the largest and most elaborate ships of their time, and they were built with a high degree of craftsmanship and attention to detail. They were also designed to be functional, with features like the hypocaust heating systems and other amenities that made them comfortable and livable for their occupants. The fact that the Nemi ships were scuttled and sunk in Lake Nemi and yet remained preserved for almost 2,000 years is a testament to their durability and the quality of their construction. The mystery here is that the ship's discovery proved that the ancient Romans were capable of building large ships. Historians, scholars, and researchers often ridiculed the idea that the Romans were capable of building such a large ship, but due to the Nemi ship's discovery, it's caused historians to admit that they were wrong about Roman technology and said that it caused them to question what they were capable of. The mystery of Greek fire. Greek fire was a weapon used by the Byzantine Empire in the medieval period, primarily during the 7th to 12th centuries. It was a highly effective incendiary weapon that could be used to set enemy ships on fire and cause chaos and destruction on the battlefield. The exact composition of Greek fire is not known with certainty, as the recipe was a closely guarded secret. However, it is believed to have been a type of liquid fire that could stick to surfaces and continue to burn even when exposed to water. Greek fire was typically deployed using a flamethrower-like device called a siphon, which allowed the user to direct a stream of the liquid fire towards their target. It was also sometimes launched in pots or jars, which would break upon impact and release the fire. One of the reasons that Greek fire was so effective was that it was difficult to extinguish. Water could actually make it burn more intensely, and attempts to smother it with sand or other materials were often unsuccessful. The use of Greek fire helped the Byzantine Empire to fend off numerous attacks by enemy forces, including the Arab and Viking fleets. However, over time the technology and techniques for creating and deploying the weapon were lost, and by the 14th century it was no longer used in warfare. The exact composition of Greek fire is not known, as no written records of the formula have survived. However, historians have been able to identify some general characteristics of the weapon based on historical accounts and contemporary descriptions. Historians have detailed some of the general characteristics of Greek fire. It was a liquid fire that could be sprayed or thrown at targets. It was highly flammable and burned fiercely, even when exposed to water. It was difficult to extinguish and could continue to burn on water. It could be directed at a specific target using a siphon or similar device. It was sticky and could adhere to surfaces, making it difficult to remove. It was effective against both people and ships. It could cause panic and confusion among enemy troops, helping to break their morale. Although Greek fire is a mystery, historians and researchers have said that Greek fire was a highly effective and feared weapon that helped the Byzantine Empire to defend against numerous attacks. Its exact composition may never be known for certain, but its general characteristics make it clear why it was so effective on the battlefield. What's underneath the Great Sphinx? The question of what is under the Great Sphinx in Egypt is a topic of much debate and speculation among archaeologists and historians. The most widely accepted theory is that there are tunnels and chambers beneath the Sphinx, but their purpose and contents remain unknown. Some archaeologists and Egyptologists believe that the tunnels and chambers may have been part of the complex system of tombs and temples that surround the Sphinx and the nearby pyramids. Others speculate that the chambers may have been used for religious or ritual purposes. In recent years, there have been claims that there may be a secret chamber or even an entire underground city beneath the Sphinx, but there is no scientific evidence to support these claims. It's important to note that any excavation or exploration of the area around the Sphinx would be subject to strict regulations and permits, and any discoveries would need to be carefully evaluated and documented by archaeologists and other experts. With that being said, technology has revealed that there is evidence of tunnels and shafts beneath the Great Sphinx at Giza, but their purpose and extent are still a matter of debate. During various excavations and surveys of the Sphinx and its surrounding area, researchers have identified a number of tunnels and shafts that appear to be of ancient origin. The purpose of these tunnels and shafts is not entirely clear, but they are believed to have been part of the complex system of tombs and temples that were built during the Old Kingdom period in Egypt. Some researchers have speculated that the tunnels and shafts may have been used for religious or ritual purposes, or as a means of accessing the underground water table. One idea is that of the Hall of Records. The concept of a Hall of Records hidden beneath the Great Sphinx is a popular but unfounded claim that has been put forward by a number of researchers who've studied ancient Egypt. The idea of a Hall of Records beneath the Sphinx can be traced back to a series of 19th century articles and books by French author Edgar Cayce. According to Cayce, the Hall of Records was a vast library of ancient knowledge and wisdom, containing information about the lost civilization of Atlantis, as well as other lost civilizations and technologies. As of right now, mainstream scientists have said that there is no archaeological evidence to support the existence of such a hall, and the theory has been dismissed by mainstream scholars. Moreover, the idea of a vast underground library being hidden beneath the Sphinx raises many practical questions, such as how such a structure could be constructed and maintained without leaving any trace or evidence. The mysterious Wandjina cave paintings. The Wandjina cave paintings are a collection of ancient rock art located in the Kimberley region of Western Australia. These paintings are believed to have been created by the indigenous people of the region, known as the Wandjina or Wandjina people, who have lived in the area for tens of thousands of years. The Wandjina cave paintings are known for their distinctive style and their depictions of humanoid figures with large round eyes and no mouths. These figures are believed to represent the Wandjina spirits, who are considered to be the creators of the land and the guardians of the people. The paintings are typically made using red and white ochre and are found in a variety of locations, including caves, rock shelters, and overhangs. Many of the paintings are located in remote and difficult-to-reach areas and are considered to be of great cultural and spiritual significance to the indigenous people of the region. The Wandjina cave paintings are thought to be among the oldest examples of rock art in the world, with some estimates suggesting that they may be as much as 40,000 years old. They are an important part of the cultural heritage of the Wandjina people, and are also recognized as an important archaeological and artistic resource by the wider world. Due to the depictions of humanoids, it's caused some to suggest that the figures are actually extraterrestrials, further noting that these interpretations can be seen in various cave paintings across the world and suggest that perhaps ancient humans came into contact with something otherworldly. However, historians have said that the Wandjina cave paintings do not depict aliens, and say that the figures depicted in the paintings are believed to represent the Wandjina spirits, which are an important part of the indigenous religious and cultural traditions of the Kimberley region of Western Australia. The sea serpent spotted by the crew of HMS Daedalus. The sighting of the HMS Daedalus sea serpent occurred on August 6, 1848, when crew members of the British Royal Navy ship HMS Daedalus reported seeing an enormous sea serpent in the waters of the mid-Atlantic Ocean. According to the accounts, the creature was said to be around 60 feet long, with a head resembling that of a snake or a lizard, and a neck that rose approximately 6 feet out of the water. The creature's body was described as being thick and covered in scales, with a coloration that alternated between light brown and black. It was also said to have humps on its back that moved up and down in a wave-like motion. The sighting reportedly lasted for around 20 minutes and was witnessed by several crew members, including the ship's captain, Peter McQuay. The creature was said to be moving at a speed of around 15 miles per hour and appeared to be heading east. The incident gained widespread media attention and sparked a great deal of debate and speculation about the existence of sea monsters. Some skeptics dismissed the sighting as a misidentification of a known creature, such as a giant squid or a whale, while others believed it to be proof of the existence of previously unknown species. Oddly enough, this creature was sighted and described by those who spent the majority of their life at sea, and so researchers into the unknown have said that they would easily be able to identify sea creatures local to the region, saying that this adds weight to the theory that the crew encountered a mysterious unknown creature. In the years since the sighting, there has been much speculation and analysis of the accounts, with some suggesting that the creature may have been a hoax perpetrated by the crew, or that it was a misidentification of a known animal. However, the sighting remains one of the most well-known and intriguing sea monster reports in history. The mystery of Sri Lanka's Stargate. The Sri Lanka Stargate, also known as the Kotuwe Card Stargate, is a mysterious artifact located in Sri Lanka that has long fascinated scholars and enthusiasts of the paranormal. The artifact is a circular stone disc, measuring approximately 3 feet in diameter, with intricate carvings of cosmic and geometric patterns. The origins of the Sri Lanka Stargate are shrouded in mystery, with some theories suggesting that it was created by an ancient civilization with advanced knowledge of astronomy and cosmology. The carvings on the disc are said to depict a variety of celestial objects, including stars, planets, and galaxies, as well as symbols and diagrams related to ancient religious and spiritual traditions. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Sri Lanka Stargate is its alleged ability to act as a portal or gateway to other dimensions or realities. According to some accounts, the disc was used in ancient times by priests or shamans as a means of accessing other realms of consciousness or communicating with beings from other worlds. While the claims of the Sri Lanka Stargate's supernatural abilities remain unproven, the artifact continues to fascinate researchers and enthusiasts of the paranormal. Some have even speculated that the disc may have extraterrestrial origins, or that it may hold the key to unlocking the secrets of advanced ancient civilizations. Despite the intrigue and speculation surrounding the Sri Lanka Stargate, the artifact remains a subject of debate and controversy within the scientific and archaeological communities. While some believe that the disc may hold important clues to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, others are skeptical of its alleged powers and origins. Despite the uncertainties surrounding the Sri Lanka Stargate, its mysterious carvings and intriguing history continue to capture the imagination of those who seek to understand the secrets of the universe and the mysteries of the past. Whether or not the artifact holds the key to unlocking these secrets remains to be seen, but its continued study and investigation will undoubtedly inspire new discoveries and insights for years to come. The mystery of the lost city of Paititi. The city of Paititi, also known as El Dorado, is a legendary lost city that is said to be located somewhere in the jungles of South America, possibly in the Andes Mountains. It is believed to be a vast, wealthy metropolis that was hidden away by the Inca civilization to keep it safe from Spanish conquistadors during the 16th century. According to the legend, the city is made entirely of gold and other precious metals and contains vast treasures beyond imagination, including artifacts, gems, and precious stones. It's also said to be home to a powerful ruler who possesses great wisdom and knowledge and who is protected by a fierce army of warriors. The story of the lost city has captured the imaginations of explorers, adventurers, and treasure hunters for centuries, and many expeditions have been launched in search of the lost city. However, despite extensive searches and investigations, no concrete evidence of the city's existence has ever been found. The legend is believed to have originated from the traditions of indigenous peoples in South America and has been passed down through generations. Some historians and archaeologists believe that the story may have been inspired by real-life events, such as the flight of the Inca Emperor Atahualpa during the Spanish conquest of Peru, when he is said to have hidden vast amounts of treasure in the Andes Mountains. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of Paititi continues to inspire speculation and fascination, and the search for the lost city remains a popular topic among adventurers and explorers. The location of the city of El Dorado is uncertain and has been the subject of much speculation over the years. According to legend, the city is believed to be located somewhere in the jungles of South America, possibly in the Andes Mountains, but the exact location has been a mystery for centuries, with many explorers and adventurers launching expeditions to try to find the lost city. Interestingly, some have suggested that the lost city is in the Amazon rainforest. As of today, researchers and explorers are constantly making interesting discoveries in the Amazon rainforest, with one of the most recent finds being that of ancient pyramids and roadways. Archaeologists have said that there are ancient archaeological sites and ruins scattered throughout the Amazon region, including impressive examples of pre-Columbian engineering, such as causeways, mounds, and terraced hillsides. The Amazon rainforest is a vast and largely unexplored region, and there is always the possibility that new archaeological discoveries could be made in the future. Despite many claims and rumors of sightings, no concrete evidence of the lost city's existence has ever been found, leading some to believe that it may be purely a mythical place. However, the legend of Paititi continues to inspire speculation and fascination among many, and the search for the lost city remains a popular topic among adventurers and explorers. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine. The Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine is a legendary mine said to be located somewhere in the Superstition Mountains of Arizona, USA. According to the legend, the mine contains a vast fortune in gold and other precious metals, and has been sought after by treasure hunters and adventurers for over a century. The story of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine dates back to the mid-19th century, when a German immigrant named Jacob Waltz, also known as the Dutchman, claimed to have discovered the mine while prospecting in the Superstition Mountains. According to Waltz, he had stumbled upon a vein of gold so rich that he was able to collect large quantities of ore simply by scraping the surface of the rock with a knife. Over the years, the story of Waltz's discovery grew into a legend, and many treasure hunters and adventurers attempted to locate the lost mine. However, despite extensive searches, the mine was never found, and Waltz himself passed away without revealing its location. Despite the lack of concrete evidence, the legend of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine continued to inspire fascination and speculation, and many theories and stories emerged about the mine's location and the fate of those who sought it. Some claimed that the mine was guarded by supernatural forces, while others suggested that Waltz had taken the secret of its location to his grave. In the decades that followed, countless expeditions were launched in search of the lost mine, and many stories emerged of treasure hunters who had supposedly discovered it, only to meet with misfortune or disappear under mysterious circumstances. However, despite the persistent search, the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine has never been definitively located. Today, the legend of the Lost Dutchman's Gold Mine remains a popular topic among treasure hunters, adventurers, and folklore enthusiasts. While some believe that the mine is purely a myth, others continue to search for its elusive location, hoping to uncover the vast fortune that is said to lie hidden in the Superstition Mountains. The mysterious treasure of Lima. The treasure of Lima is a legendary treasure said to have been hidden by Spanish forces during the War of Independence in Peru in the early 19th century. According to the legend, the treasure consists of a vast collection of gold, silver, jewels, and other precious objects, valued at hundreds of millions of dollars. The story of the treasure of Lima dates back to 1820, when Spanish forces were fighting against the forces of Peruvian independence. As the Spanish forces retreated, they are said to have gathered up a vast treasure of gold and silver objects from the churches, convents, and palaces of Lima, the capital city of Peru at the time. The treasure was reportedly loaded onto a convoy of mules and wagons and transported out of the city under cover of darkness. The convoy made its way across the Andes Mountains to the coast, where the treasure was reportedly hidden in a cave or a remote location. Over the years, the legend of the treasure of Lima has inspired countless treasure hunters and adventurers to search for the lost treasure. Many stories have emerged of treasure hunters who claim to have discovered the location of the treasure, only to be thwarted by deadly traps or treacherous terrain. Despite the persistent search, the location of the treasure of Lima has never been definitively discovered, and the treasure remains one of the most elusive and sought-after treasures in the world. In recent years, however, new evidence has emerged that suggests that the treasure may be located in a complex system of underground tunnels and chambers beneath the city of Lima. The tunnels were reportedly constructed by Spanish forces during the colonial period, and were later used as a hideout by rebel forces during the War of Independence. While the location of the treasure of Lima remains a mystery, the legend of the treasure continues to inspire fascination and speculation among treasure hunters and adventurers around the world. Whether or not the treasure will ever be found remains to be seen, but the search for the elusive treasure is sure to continue for many years to come. The treasure of the Esperanza. The treasure of the Esperanza is a legendary treasure said to have been hidden by Spanish forces during the Mexican-American War in the mid-19th century. According to the legend, the treasure consists of a vast collection of gold, silver, jewels, and other precious objects valued at millions of dollars. The story of the treasure of the Esperanza dates back to 1846, when the Mexican-American conflict broke out between the United States and Mexico. As the war raged on, a Spanish galleon named the Esperanza was reportedly sailing off the coast of Mexico, carrying a valuable cargo of gold, silver, and other treasures. In order to avoid capture by the American forces, the crew of the Esperanza reportedly buried the treasure on a remote island off the coast of Mexico. The location of the island and the treasure's hiding place were reportedly marked by a set of cryptic clues and symbols known only to the crew of the galleon. Over the years, the legend of the treasure of the Esperanza has inspired countless treasure hunters and adventurers to search for the lost treasure. Many stories have emerged of treasure hunters who claim to have discovered the location of the treasure, only to be thwarted by deadly traps or treacherous terrain. Despite the persistent search, the location of the treasure of the Esperanza has never been definitively discovered, and the treasure remains one of the most elusive and sought-after treasures in the world. In recent years, however, new evidence has emerged that suggests that the treasure may be located on the coast of Mexico, near the site where the Esperanza was last seen. Some treasure hunters believe that the clues to the treasure's location are hidden in ancient maps and documents, while others believe that advanced technology, such as ground-penetrating radar, may be used to locate the treasure. While the location of the treasure of the Esperanza remains a mystery, the legend of the treasure continues to inspire fascination and speculation among treasure hunters and adventurers around the world. Whether or not the treasure will ever be found remains to be seen, but the search for the elusive treasure is sure to continue for many years to come. Who were the mysterious sea people? Though there were many ancient civilizations that had existed during the 12th century BC, suddenly and quite unexpectedly, nearly every civilization was wiped from the face of the earth except for the cities of Egypt. This phenomenon was recorded as the Late Bronze Age collapse, and it's said that only small villages survived this sudden catastrophe. For many decades, the cause of such an occurrence had widely been unknown and shrouded in mystery. That was until the ancient language of the Egyptian hieroglyphics had been decoded and allowed us to read the historical records captured at the time by the last standing ancient civilization. This record has led to countless theories and endless debate amongst Egyptologists, classic historians and archaeologists since its findings. Over 2,000 years before the Vikings sailed from today's Scandinavia to plague the Europeans, the ancient world empires faced a terrifying sea-travelling enemy of their own, and that has remained a mystery up to today. During the Bronze Age, the Sea People caused terror in the Mediterranean and Egyptian lands, but their origin and identity has remained a mystery until this day. An inscription written in the 13th century BC said that they came from the sea in their ships and that nobody could defeat them. Reportedly, by the historical accounts of the ancient Egyptians, armies of what had been referred to at the time as Sea People attacked and demolished the cities of man. In fact, the descriptions of the armies of the Sea People describe monsters and giants coming from the oceans and waging war against all of civilization. The reasoning for why this sudden onslaught had occurred has yet to be understood, but what's surprising is the vast amount of theories surrounding the events. Accounts continue of the Egyptians attempting to track the source of the beasts that appeared humanoid in nature, and it's reported that they found hundreds of footprints coming from the beaches of the Mediterranean Sea. Today, after uncovering vast art depicting the battles, documents detailing the events, and further evidence of war and tactics used against the destroyed and forgotten civilizations of the past, the proof of the account of the Sea People appears to be overwhelming in nature. As a matter of fact, the events are so overwhelming that the discussion surrounding the event in the scientific community has been somewhat confusing, and further theories or attempts at uncovering the truth are treated with ridicule. The Egyptian inscriptions provide almost all there is to know about the Sea People, apart from the references in the letters from Assyrians and Hittites that have contributed to the subject. They were also mentioned in the Egyptian literature, the Tale of Wenemum, where they appear as familiar figures in the Mediterranean land. Who were the Sea People that invaded ancient Egypt? Everything known about the Sea People comes from apocalyptic inscriptions that were made by the empires they battled, especially ancient Egyptians, since they did not leave any written records or monuments of their own. One early reference goes back to the 1300 BC during the ruling of Pharaoh Meremptah, as he claimed of taking out over 6,000 seafarers after they allied with the Libyans. An even more detailed account from Ramses III, who fought with the Sea People back in 1170, described them as having moved southwestern towns in Turkey, Levant and Cyprus, desolating its residents and leaving the city as if it had never existed. The Ekwesh have been related to the Ahiyawa in the records of Hitti, who may be Achaean Greeks who colonized the western Anatolian coast and the Aegean islands. They consisted of sea raiders who invaded the towns at the Mediterranean coast between 1276 and 1178 BC, focusing mostly on Egypt. History considers them as the major contributors to the collapse of the Bronze Age between 1250 and 1150 BC. Where did the Sea People come from? Scholars are still not certain of the origins of these groups, but many trace them to Sicily, Turkey's Anatolia region, or the Aegean Sea. Some modern historians have a theory that the ancient Egyptians knew the origins of the Sea People based on what they wrote about them. Due to the fact that these Egyptian inscriptions did not mention the origins of the groups, some historians believe that their origin was so obvious that it did not need to be written down. There are some speculations, with little evidence that the Sea People were, in fact, the Philistines of the Bible, who probably battled with ancient Israel, but who they are is still a mystery. Their origin has also been proposed and strongly disputed to be Trojan. From Italy, Philistine or Minoa, however, nothing has been discovered so far to shed more light on the question of their origin. Whether all this is true or not, the fact remains that the Sea People's origins are not written in any records, and that information is therefore lost to history. What did they want? Equally mysterious is the motivation of the Sea People to ravage the Mediterranean. Some historians believe that they were displaced from their original home by natural disaster or famine. Other researchers state that the Sea People were Trojans displaced after they lost their kingdom to the Greeks in the Trojan battle. Whether the Trojan War story is true or is just a mythical story is unknown. The Sea People attacked many cities and Mediterranean settlements, but seemingly had an affinity for Egypt, attacking 3 different pharaohs. Their intentions for an attack, however, despite much research, remains a mystery to this day. What happened once they took over Egypt? Even though their origin remains unknown, tantalizing pieces of information about the damage that the Sea People inflicted on the ancient worlds are available thanks to the inscriptions the witnesses of the devastation left. Most of the current studies of the Sea People come from the inscriptions left behind from Ramesses III's reign. Emmanuel de Rouge, a French Egyptologist, came up with the term Sea People in 1855 because reports claimed that they originated from the sea or islands, but did not specify the particular ones. There were 3 pharaohs who recorded their interaction with these raiders: Ramesses II, Meremptah, who was his son and successor, and Ramesses III. All 3 pharaohs were victorious over their enemies, and their inscriptions provided more detail about the existence of the Sea People. Ramses II and his inscriptions. Ramses II was one of the greatest rulers of ancient Egyptian history, with accomplishments including securing his borders from invasion by nomads and also securing trade routes that were vital to their economy. In his inscriptions, he mentions the Sea People as allies of the Hittites and mercenaries in his own army. He does not mention anything about their identity or where they came from. Ramses inscribed his victory over the Sea People in a war off the Egyptian coast. According to what he inscribed, the battle involved only the Shurdan tribe of the Sea People, and after the war, many were recruited into Ramses's army. In his inscriptions, Ramses made the impression that he neutralized the threat. However, his successors' inscriptions claimed otherwise. The inscription of Meremptah. The Sea People troubled Meremptah's reign, especially after they allied with the Libyans in the Nile Delta invasion. From his inscriptions in his 5th year, the Libyan chief allied with the Sea People invading Egypt. Meremptah describes the Sea People in his inscriptions as formidable adversaries and took pride in defeating them. He claimed complete victory over the Sea People, securing the Egyptian borders. He celebrated his victory by immortalizing its inscription in the Meremptah stele, announcing how he brought peace to his land by subduing the enemy. Where did they go afterward? Ramses III knew of the clashes of the Sea People with his predecessors and opted for guerrilla tactics instead of field engagements with his predecessors. He organized ambushes along the coast and down the Nile Delta, hiding his archers along the shore so that they could rain arrows on the ships when he gave the signal. After confirming that no crew on the ship were alive, they set the downing vessels on fire with flaming arrows. After crushing the sea attacks, Ramses III focused on what was left of the Sea People on land. He used the same tactics and finally defeated the Sea People in 1170 right BC. After being defeated by Ramses III, the Sea People disappeared from history. However, according to San Jose State University, the Egyptians allowed the remaining Sea People to settle in today's Israel and Palestine. Despite the win over the Sea People, the battle drained the Egyptian royal treasury, rendering it unable to pay its tomb builders. This resulted in the first recorded labor strike in history, where the workers refused to work until they were fully paid. The mysterious sea serpent encounter of Hans Egede. Hans Egede was a Norwegian-Danish Lutheran missionary who founded the settlement of Nuuk in Greenland in the early 18th century. In 1734, he reported seeing a sea serpent in the waters near Greenland, which he described in detail. According to Egede's account, the sea serpent was approximately 60 feet long, with a head the size of a horse's head and a long, slender neck. He noted that the creature moved quickly through the water, with its head and neck often visible above the surface. Egede also described the serpent's skin as being covered in rough, hard scales, with a color that was a mixture of grey and black. He noted that the serpent had 2 large, round eyes that were yellow in color, and that it had a large mouth filled with sharp teeth. Egede's account of the sea serpent was met with some skepticism at the time, and many people believed that he had simply seen a large fish or some other aquatic creature. However, the report of the sea serpent caught the attention of naturalists and other scientists, and it helped to spark a renewed interest in the study of marine biology and oceanography. In the years since Egede's sighting, there have been numerous other reports of sea serpents and other mysterious creatures in the world's oceans. The mysterious disappearance of David Guerrero. David Guerrero was a 21-year-old student who disappeared in the early hours of March 8, 2005, in downtown Austin, Texas. His disappearance has remained a mystery for over a decade. with no solid leads or conclusive evidence of what happened to him. On the night of March 7th, 2005, David and his friends were celebrating spring break and had visited several bars in the downtown area. They eventually ended up at a popular nightclub located on East 6th Street. David was last seen leaving the club at around 2 in the morning. He was reportedly walking towards his car, which was parked several blocks away. David never made it home that night, and his family and friends immediately became concerned when they were unable to reach him. They reported him missing to the Austin Police Department on March 9, 2005. Over the years, there have been several leads and possible sightings of David, but none of them have led to any conclusive evidence of his whereabouts. In 2006, a private investigator hired by David's family received a tip that he had been spotted in Mexico, but this lead ultimately turned out to be a dead end. In 2011, the case received renewed attention when a witness came forward claiming to have seen David in a homeless camp in downtown Austin shortly after his disappearance. The witness described a man matching David's description and claimed to have spoken to him briefly. However, despite an extensive search of the area, no further evidence was found. The circumstances surrounding David's disappearance are still a mystery, and his case remains unsolved. His family and friends continue to hold out hope that he will one day be found, and the Austin Police Department has stated that they will continue to investigate any new leads or information that comes to light. A full moon may affect human behavior. There has been a long-standing belief that the full moon can cause behavior changes in humans, including increased aggression, with some reports saying that people reported that they couldn't control themselves. Several studies have examined the relationship between the full moon and behavior changes, but although the results have been interesting, they have been somewhat inconsistent. Some studies have found a correlation between the full moon and increased hospital admissions for psychiatric emergencies, while others have found no such relationship. One possible explanation for the belief in full moon behavior changes is the psychological phenomenon of confirmation bias. This is the tendency to notice and remember information that confirms our pre-existing beliefs or expectations, while disregarding information that contradicts them. In other words, people may be more likely to notice instances of aggressive behavior during a full moon and attribute them to the lunar cycle, while overlooking similar behavior at other times. Another possible explanation is the placebo effect, in which people experience a change in behavior simply because they expect to. If someone believes that the full moon will cause them to become more unstable, they may act in ways that confirm this belief, even if there is no direct causal relationship between the moon and their behavior. Unsolved mysteries involving mysterious individuals have a unique and enduring fascination that captures our collective imagination. These enigmatic figures, whether real or the stuff of legends, possess an irresistible allure that compels us to delve into the unknown. Two mysterious individuals visit a hotel. A video capturing the entrance of two individuals believed to be men in black into the Sheraton Hotel lobby on the Canadian side of the Niagara Falls has fascinated people for years. The footage was uploaded to YouTube, and this incident, which took place on May 15, 2009, has been thoroughly investigated by those who are interested in the unknown. It was found that these alleged men in black specifically sought out the general manager of the hotel, who, along with a fellow employee working security at the time, had an encounter with a triangular-shaped unidentified object 7 months prior to this incident. The sighting occurred on the night of October 14, 2008, as the unidentified object glided slowly and silently over the hotel premises. The presence of this surveillance video has stirred great interest and curiosity among UFO enthusiasts and researchers alike. The two hotel employees provided a detailed account of the extraordinary aerial phenomenon they encountered. They described the unidentified flying object as an impressive sight, measuring approximately 240 feet in length, and stated that the aircraft boasted a unique configuration with 3 white lights prominently displayed on all 3 sides, while a pulsating red light adorned its central section, adding to its mystique. Their observation of the object lasted for nearly 10 minutes, during which it traversed the skies in a slow and noiseless manner at an estimated altitude of 500 feet. Its flight path extended from over Niagara's majestic Horseshoe Falls toward the direction of their hotel, leaving the witnesses in awe and disbelief. What further captivated their attention was the craft's fascinating behavior. As it gracefully hovered above the water, the object emitted a brilliant beam of shimmering white light. This radiant display was directed downward, seemingly illuminating the surface of the water with a mesmerizing glow. However, as the two individuals continued to observe this extraordinary phenomenon, their astonishment quickly turned to trepidation. About a week later, the hotel manager was alone in the hotel parking lot at 1 a.m. when he noticed another black triangle flying in the same direction but at a much higher altitude. Approximately 7 months following the occurrence of the two aforementioned sightings, a rather unsettling incident took place on May 15th. It involved the hotel staff, who found themselves at the center of an eerie encounter. Two individuals, bearing an uncanny resemblance to one another, were observed entering the hotel lobby. These men were attired in matching black trench coats and hats, which only added to the mystique of the situation. Curiosity piqued, they approached the front desk and requested to speak with the hotel manager. Upon encountering the hotel's bellman, the two individuals, who were described as having an unusually distinctive appearance, were informed by the bellman that the manager was absent for the day. Although the bellman perceived a sense of disbelief from the two men, they proceeded to explore various areas of the hotel in search of the manager. After the bellman completed his assigned tasks and returned, he discovered that the two individuals had departed from the premises. This incident showcases an intriguing encounter between the bellman and these enigmatic men, raising questions about their motives and intentions within the hotel. The following day, when the hotel manager resumed his duties, the bellman approached him discreetly. He proceeded to recount the unsettling incident involving two individuals who had left him feeling unnerved. According to the bellman, these two men had strikingly similar appearances, characterized by an eerie pallor, towering height, and identical attire, right down to the matching hats and trench coats they were wearing. This encounter had left the bellman thoroughly shaken, their presence and uncanny resemblance haunting his thoughts. With a mixture of skepticism and concern, the manager proceeded to the hotel security office and meticulously analyzed the surveillance footage from the preceding day. His objective was to locate any footage capturing the entry of the two individuals into the hotel lobby. Taking a comprehensive approach, the manager delved into the details of the surveillance tapes, carefully examining each frame to ascertain the precise time in which the two individuals entered the hotel. The following day, an additional employee from the hotel approached the manager confidentially and recounted her encounter with the two individuals. During their conversation, they inquired about the manager while delving into topics that seemed completely nonsensical to her, such as discussions about governments and mysterious aircrafts. A sense of fear washed over her when she observed a peculiar detail about them, their complete lack of facial hair, including eyebrows. It appeared as though they were wearing hats with attached wigs, giving them an unnatural and unsettling appearance. This bizarre encounter left her perplexed and unsettled, raising questions about the true nature and intentions of these individuals. The woman recounted to her boss the striking appearance of the two men, with their large and captivating blue eyes that seemed to hold a hypnotic power. As she delved further into her experience, her emotions overwhelmed her, resulting in tears as she tried to convey the strong impression that these individuals had the ability to delve into her thoughts, particularly regarding the manager. She even felt compelled to actively block any thoughts related to him due to the unsettling sensation. What troubled her further was the fact that these men never blinked, not even once, which added to the overall eerie atmosphere of the encounter. The information surrounding the Men in Black incident is primarily based on the testimony of the manager. However, despite this limitation, those who have investigated this case have said that the witness was trustworthy and reliable. Additionally, the video capturing the Men in Black's entry into the lobby was provided by the hotel manager, adding an extra layer of evidence to the case. As of right now, the footage is believed to be one of the few genuine pieces of evidence that we have of the Men in Black. Dr. Herbert Hopkins and the missing coin. Many people regard the Men in Black as being nothing more than the appearance of government agents dressed in perfect black suits that attempt to cover up or use scare tactics to prevent the public at large from understanding the true occurrence of mysterious activity. However, the men in black could also be something else entirely, something not human. This appears to be the case when reviewing the reports made by a Dr. Herbert Hopkins and his strange encounter with an individual who suddenly showed up at his house while he was conducting a private investigation. Dr. Herbert Hopkins was working as a consultant on a case involving a sighting of an unidentified flying object, as well as various other claims that had occurred in the state of Maine. One night, as Dr. Hopkins was poring over further details of the case he had recovered, he received an eerie phone call from someone who claimed to be an activist, who then further stated that not only did he wish to visit Hopkins, but he had additional evidence regarding the case. Dr. Hopkins was thrilled to hear this, as any additional witness testimony and proof brought forward would certainly help him to better understand the situation that had occurred, and so he gave the man the details of his address and directions on how to reach him. Oddly enough, it only took a few minutes before he heard the ring of his doorbell. The man that showed up to his house was described by Dr. Hopkins as wearing a perfectly pressed black suit and black tie. But this was far from the most noticeable thing about the man. According to Dr. Hopkins, the man in black had incredibly unusual facial features. The man had no hair of any kind, including a bald head, completely shaved eyebrows and no eyelashes. He was also so unbelievably pale to the point that it looked unhealthy and completely unnatural. Not wanting to be rude, Dr. Hopkins invited the strange man into the home to discuss the details of the case. When the strange man entered, Dr. Hopkins' dog began barking at the man erratically and demonstrated incredible uneasiness around him. The only thing out of the man's mouth were direct questions being asked about the details of the case, involving information that no one other than the current investigators were made aware of. After Dr. Hopkins answered his questions and told the man everything he had learned about the case, the conversation became a whole lot weirder. The man in black told Dr. Herbert Hopkins that there were 2 coins in his pocket and for the doctor to make sure he was correct. When the doctor checked his pockets, he found 2 coins and immediately became disturbed by this. The man in black then instructed the doctor to remove one of the coins in his pockets and to hold it in his hand. As the coin sat in the palm of the doctor's hands, he began to see what he described as the coin taking on a silvery appearance and then appeared as if it was going out of focus. After a few more seconds, the coin disappeared completely and was nowhere to be seen. The man in black then explained to Hopkins that the coin will never be seen on this plane again, implying that perhaps it's in a different plane of existence altogether. The man in black then asked the doctor if he was aware of the case of Barney Hill. For those that are not aware of Barney Hill, he was a famous collaborator in the unidentified object community, with interesting experiences and witness accounts. He and his wife worked tirelessly to develop the legitimate study of advanced life before his untimely passing that was already shrouded in mystery. The man in black then told Dr. Hopkins that the reason Barney had passed away was due to them using the same tactic as they did with the coin on Barney's hand. The man in black clarified by saying, "Just like you no longer have a coin, Barney didn't have a heart." The man in black then told Dr. Hopkins to destroy any material he had related to the UFO case and to no longer participate in any further study. Extremely disturbed by this event, Dr. Hopkins immediately burned all the files he had relative to the case. Dan Aykroyd's mysterious encounter. Most notably known for his comedic movies and popular celebrity entourage, Dan Aykroyd began work on a paranormal TV show that worked to ask experts for their opinions, consult on investigations, and treat the world of the paranormal as a legitimate field of study. According to Mr. Aykroyd, during one of his filming shoots, he stepped outside to take a private call without anyone listening in. As he was standing outside taking the call, he noticed a black Ford parked across the street and a strange, tall man that stepped out of the car. This strange man then began staring at Mr. Aykroyd angrily. After feeling a little awkward, Mr. Aykroyd turned away for a moment before looking back and noticing the car and the strange, tall man had completely vanished. After he finished his phone call and returned to the shoot, he was immediately told by the producers that the show had been cancelled and he was ordered to stop filming immediately. Though many people doubt his claims, to this day, Dan Aykroyd swears by what he saw and believes the cancelling of his show to be connected with these strange men in black. the mysterious disappearance of Ronald Ohm in the enigmatic Cascades. Over 250,000 individuals are reported missing every year, with estimates of actual missing persons cases that are left unreported, pushing that total to more than an expected 300,000 cases annually. With that many reports, it is no wonder that a vast majority of these cases are left unsolved. However, every now and then there are a series of missing cases that emerge that are so peculiar they become the subject of impossible to explain theories. Known as the Missing 411, there appears to be a substantial number of missing persons cases relating to the disappearances of individuals from national parks. Reported among the awe-inspiring landscape of the Cascades, experienced outdoorsman Ronald Ohm and his bizarre disappearance near Russell Lake in the Mount Jefferson Wilderness area has left investigators and the public perplexed. Ronald, an experienced hiker and photographer, went missing while exploring the rugged terrain of this scenic region. Despite extensive search efforts, including the deployment of helicopters and planes, no trace of Ronald or his belongings was ever found. The Cascades, a majestic mountain range stretching through Oregon and Washington, is renowned for its stunning natural beauty and challenging terrain. Mount Jefferson, standing proudly at 10,497 feet, serves as the centerpiece of the Mount Jefferson Wilderness area. Situated approximately 20 miles north of the Three Sisters Wilderness, this rugged expanse of wilderness offers adventurers a captivating experience. With its high-altitude setting, exposed boulders, and numerous lakes, including the enigmatic Russell Lake, the area presents both breathtaking vistas and potential hazards. The absence of dense vegetation above the timberline reveals a landscape that can be unforgiving, yet its allure draws hikers, photographers, and nature enthusiasts seeking solitude and serenity. Accompanied by two of his close friends from the Portland area, Ronald Ohm embarked on a hiking expedition in the Mount Jefferson Wilderness and had planned to stay in the area for only a few days. Armed with his tent, sleeping bag, photography equipment, and supplies, Ronald's intention was to capture the beauty of the region through his lens and then return home before the end of the week. Unfortunately for Ronald and his friends, strategy would strike halfway through their expedition in the area. On the day of his disappearance, Ronald's friends decided to hike down to Russell Lake and set up camp, while Ohm opted to stay on a ridge above the lake to take more photographs, separating his two closest friends while he stayed on the ridge alone throughout the night. As darkness fell, Ronald's friends had grown worried as to where Ohm had gone, as he was expected to have returned to their camp before nightfall. And when Ronald failed to rejoin his friends at the lake, the friends took his absence as a sign that something far more nefarious had occurred. Concerned, his companions initiated a small search, retracing their path from the ridge and back down while calling out to Ronald, but were unable to locate him. The following day, the United States Forest Service and the Marion County Sheriff's Department were alerted, prompting a formal search operation. The search for Ronald Ohm involved a collaborative effort between the Marion County Sheriff's Department, the United States Forest Service, and additional support from the Oregon National Guard and Civil Air Patrol. Helicopters and planes were deployed, scouring the rugged landscape in an attempt to locate Ronald from the air. Meanwhile, over 200 ground searchers meticulously combed the area, employing a grid pattern to cover vast stretches of land. Despite their exhaustive efforts, no trace of Ronald or any of his belongings, including his equipment, backpack, hat, camera, or sleeping bag, was found. Ronald Ohm's vanishing near Russell Lake adds to the disturbing pattern of disappearances in the Cascades. Curiously, there have been reports of individuals going missing in this particular corridor during the summer months of 2012. Notably, the last two cases involved individuals over 50 years old who disappeared within a 25-mile radius of each other while venturing alone in the wilderness. This uncanny similarity raises questions about the circumstances surrounding these events and the potential underlying factors at play. The unexplained disappearances in the Cascades have sparked numerous theories and speculations. Some have questioned whether the volcanic nature of the region, with its active and inactive volcanoes, could have any connection to these vanishing cases. Others have pondered the role of the rugged landscape, characterized by boulders, rocks, and exposed granite, which features prominently in the vicinity where people have gone missing. Drawing comparisons with folklore from other regions, such as Iceland, where large rocks and boulders are believed to hold mystical significance, adds an intriguing layer to the discussion. The Cascades, while alluring, also hold an air of mystery and danger. As David Paulides, an investigator of missing persons cases, emphasizes, these disappearances cannot be attributed to mere coincidence. The sheer number of documented cases, along with the bizarre circumstances under which individuals have vanished or been found, points to something inexplicable happening in this captivating wilderness. While the precise causes remain elusive, it is crucial to raise awareness about these incidents and offer support to the families affected. The vanishing of Ronald Ohm near Russell Lake in the Cascades serves as a haunting reminder of the enigmatic nature of this breathtaking region. Despite extensive search efforts and the deployment of resources, Ronald's disappearance remains unsolved, leaving investigators and loved ones searching for answers. As we reflect on his case and the broader pattern of disappearances in the Cascades, we are reminded of the need for continued vigilance, research, and awareness. The search for truth and closure persists as we strive to understand the mysterious forces that have claimed the lives and presence of those who ventured into the captivating yet treacherous wilderness of the Cascades. The mystery of Nicholas Flamel. Performing a Google search for the name Nicholas Flamel will generate an overwhelming number of search results. However, the majority of these results predominantly spotlight books or information related to the fictional character Nicholas Flamel. If one seeks information about the historical figure, the renowned alchemist, the task becomes considerably more challenging. Nicholas Flamel gained particular prominence due to J.K. Rowling's portrayal of him in the widely popular book Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. In this narrative, Flamel is portrayed as the creator of the mythical Philosopher's Stone, capable of producing the elixir of life and transforming base metals into gold. While the factual existence of Flamel is not synonymous with immortality, his narrative possesses an air of enigmatic allure that continues to captivate and intrigue. Nicholas Flamel, born in 1330 in the vicinity of Paris, France, remains an enigmatic figure when it comes to his early years. However, as he reached adulthood, Flamel found work as a bookseller and formed a union with Perenelle, a widow slightly older than himself. Evidence suggests that Flamel's success as a bookseller manifested through generous donations to the Holy Innocents Cemetery and the presentation of a valuable manuscript to the royal court. Moreover, Flamel gained wide recognition for his mastery in the realm of alchemy. The field of alchemy had gained remarkable popularity throughout Europe during this period, notably with a focus on the transmutation of substances, particularly the ambitious pursuit of converting base metals into precious gold. Delving deeper into Flamel's life, his involvement as an alchemist extended beyond mere fascination. He passionately engaged in the study and practice of alchemical principles, seeking to unlock the mysteries of transmutation. The allure of turning base metals into gold fascinated Flamel, drawing him into a world of intricate experimentation and profound exploration of the natural world. Nicholas Flamel would gain widespread recognition and acclaim due to his remarkable achievement in developing the legendary Philosopher's Stone. This renowned artifact was believed to possess the extraordinary ability to transmute ordinary mercury into precious gold. There is significant skepticism surrounding the claims that Flamel's stone had the power to transform mercury into gold, especially considering that his wife was the only person who claimed to have witnessed such a transmutation. However, during the 14th century, Flamel's story was widely believed, leading Europe's royalty and nobility to actively seek out alchemists who could assist them in acquiring wealth and maintaining good health. The enigmatic aspect of Nicholas Flamel's tale lies in how he acquired the knowledge required to create the Philosopher's Stone. As recounted by the famous alchemist himself, a celestial being appeared to him in a dream, presenting a perplexing book that defied comprehension. This angelic entity prophesied that with time, the mysterious contents of the book would be unveiled to him. Mirroring this celestial encounter, Flamel's path crossed with an individual who possessed the exact same book from his dream, a book penned by none other than Abraham the Jew. Fascinated and driven by curiosity, Flamel wasted no time in acquiring this precious book. Over the course of 21 years, He tirelessly immersed himself in its cryptic symbols, gradually unlocking the profound secrets of transmutation concealed within its pages. Regrettably, the Book of Abramelin the Mage, which played such a pivotal role in Flamel's extraordinary journey, has tragically vanished from existence. Lost amidst the annals of history during the 17th century, this unfortunate circumstance renders the verification of Flamel's remarkable account impossible. Nicolas Flamel, renowned for his contributions to alchemy, dedicated the remainder of his life to France. During this period, he not only authored manuscripts on the subject, some of which can still be admired today at the renowned Bibliothèque Nationale in Paris, but he also indulged in regular visits to local cemeteries. Despite these intriguing aspects, Flamel's later years were seemingly unremarkable, characterized by an ordinary existence. Eventually, at the age of 80, he succumbed to the natural course of life and found his final resting place at the church of Saint-Jacques-la-Boucherie. Nevertheless, Flamel's legacy endured beyond his mortality. Although there is no concrete evidence from his own lifetime that suggests he had discovered the elixir of life, by the 17th century, the tale surrounding him had acquired grandeur. It became widely believed that Flamel had achieved immortality, fueled in part by the testimonies of would-be thieves who audaciously trespassed into his tomb with the hope of discovering the fabled philosopher's stone, rumoured to be interred alongside its creator. However, their hopes were dashed when these intruders, upon opening Flamel's coffin, were greeted with an astounding revelation. No physical remains were found within. This unexpected circumstance further perpetuated the notion that Flamel had indeed achieved everlasting life, thereby adding another layer to the enigmatic saga of this alchemical figure. And thus, the legend surrounding Nicolas Flamel continued to grow and captivate the imagination of many. In present times, a significant number of individuals perceive Flamel as a mere fictional character, but there exists undeniable evidence that he did, in fact, exist. A deep dive into the French archives would unveil his marriage certificate to Perenelle, records documenting the gifts he bestowed upon others, and copies of his meticulously crafted manuscripts. These artifacts serve as a testament to the life of an ordinary man, albeit one fortunate enough to possess the ability to read and write during the 14th century in France. The Pollock Twins. The story of the Pollock Twins is a fascinating and enigmatic tale that has intrigued both believers in reincarnation and skeptics alike. This case revolves around two young girls, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, who were born in Hexham, England in 1958, and their purported memories of a past life as their deceased sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock, who had tragically passed away in a car accident just 1 year before the new twins were born. The Pollock twins' story has captivated the imagination of many and has sparked debates about the possibility of reincarnation and the nature of human consciousness. The Pollock twins' background. To fully appreciate the complexity of this case, it is essential to understand the background. The original Joanna and Jacqueline Pollock were born in 1946 and 1947 respectively. Tragically, their lives were cut short when they were involved in a car accident on May 5, 1957, at the ages of 11 and 6, along with a family friend, Anthony Leyden. Just 1 year later, on October 4, 1958, their mother, Florence Pollock, gave birth to twins, Gillian and Jennifer Pollock, who would soon become the centre of a paranormal mystery. The story of the Pollock twins' reincarnation memories began when they were around 3 years old. Both Gillian and Jennifer started displaying strange behaviour and making statements that perplexed their parents. They claimed to remember the accident that took the lives of their older sisters, Joanna and Jacqueline, despite never having been told about it by their parents. Their alleged memories included details about the car crash, the colour of the car, and the presence of a man in the car with them, which corresponded with the actual circumstances of the accident. Florence Pollock and her husband, John Pollock, initially dismissed these claims as mere childhood fantasies. However, the girls' insistence on their past lives became increasingly detailed and accurate. They could even recall the layout of their previous home and the toys they had played with, which had never been described to them. Dr. Ian Stevenson's investigation. The case of the Pollock twins caught the attention of Dr. Ian Stevenson, a respected psychiatrist and researcher in the field of reincarnation studies. Stevenson had dedicated his career to investigating cases of children who claimed to remember past lives, and he saw the Pollock twins case as a unique opportunity to study the phenomenon. In 1963, he travelled to Hexham to interview the Pollock family and conduct an extensive investigation. Dr. Stevenson's research yielded several remarkable findings. He documented over 100 specific and accurate statements made by Gillian and Jennifer about their alleged past lives, many of which were later confirmed to be true. For instance, the girls accurately described the layout of the house where their deceased sisters had lived, the location of the bedrooms, and even details about the family's pet dog. They also displayed behaviours and preferences that were consistent with those of their deceased sisters, such as having the same favourite foods and showing a fondness for the same toys. While Dr. Stevenson's research seemed to support the idea of reincarnation, skeptics offered alternative explanations for the Pollock twins' memories. One argument was that the girls had overheard conversations about the accident and their deceased sisters, either from their parents or other family members, which could have influenced their beliefs and memories. However, the Pollock parents vehemently denied ever discussing the accident in front of the twins, and there was no evidence to suggest otherwise. Another skeptical explanation focused on the possibility of the twins having had access to photographs or other personal items belonging to their deceased sisters. Critics argued that this exposure could have led the girls to form vivid memories of their past lives. However, the Pollock family claimed to have kept such items locked away, and Dr. Stevenson's investigation did not uncover any evidence of the twins having accessed them. As of right now, the case of the Pollock twins remains a perplexing and controversial topic in the realm of paranormal phenomena and reincarnation studies. While Dr. Ian Stevenson's research provided substantial evidence in support of the twins' alleged memories, skeptics continue to propose alternative explanations. The mystery of the Pollock twins raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness, memory, and the possibility of life after death. The mystery of Eric Robinson. In the sprawling outskirts of Melbourne, Australia, Eric Robinson and his girlfriend Marilyn Coulsett lived contrasting lives. While Marilyn Coulsett dedicated her days to the education of young minds, working as the principal of the Valkstone Primary School, located in East Bentley, Eric embraced a life of exploration and adventure and would often go on long trips out in the middle of nowhere, often leaving behind a worried girlfriend. Despite Marilyn's worries, Eric Robinson was an incredibly experienced outdoorsman and hiker, holding years of experience traversing numerous trails throughout his home country, as well as mastering some of the most difficult trails across New Zealand, Scotland, California, and Utah. Eric Robinson was no stranger to national parks and month-long trips. With an unyielding passion for the great outdoors, Eric meticulously planned each and every one of his outdoor excursions, immersing himself in extensive research about each region he ventured into. However, despite his expertise and careful preparations, Eric's disappearance on the Highline Trail in the Winters Wilderness, Utah, remains a perplexing enigma and is a telling sign of the strange nature of the Winters Mountains and their unexplainable cluster of missing persons reports. Equipped with a red backpack, a sturdy tent, a personal sleeping bag, some bear spray, an expensive and well-tested personal transponder, his cell phone, and a sufficient 14-day food supply for his 10-day, 60-mile hike, Eric embarked on his anticipated adventure sometime in late July. According to Eric's girlfriend, Marilyn would last see Eric Robinson when she dropped him off at the Melbourne airport and said her goodbyes as he began his trip to the United States. According to close friends of Eric, he was picked up after arriving at Salt Lake City Airport and would stay his first night at his friend's house and enjoy an afternoon and evening together. It would be during this time while at his friend's house that Eric Robinson would go over the details surrounding his upcoming trek and inform the group that he had expected to arrive at his first rendezvous point during the afternoon of the 7th of August near Mirror Lake, and to expect to hear from him and see him at around that time. Interestingly enough, friends would also claim that Eric Robinson had talked about how his vast amount of experience traveling across harsher terrains would make this short hike a breeze. On the following morning, of the 28th of July, Eric Robinson would be dropped off by his friends at the Highline Trailhead, ready to immerse himself in the vast surrounding wilderness. According to his friends, Eric was last seen in high spirits and had done one last preliminary check of his supplies to ensure that everything was in good quality and sufficient for his trip. It would be on the 2nd of August that Eric Robinson would last be seen before being reported missing. According to investigators, it would be sometime in the afternoon that a troop of Boy Scouts and their scout leaders would happen to coincidentally cross paths with Eric Robinson while the group was near the Yellowstone Creek drainage area, a few miles away from the Highline Trail that Eric had supposedly originally been scheduled to use. The leaders would later tell investigators that at the time of the sighting, Eric Robinson appeared to have had an upbeat demeanor and was in excellent physical condition, telling the troop about his plans to use the Highline Trail to his advantage. After hearing Eric's claim that he planned to stay on the Highline Trail, though the troop was nowhere near the trail, the troop's leader decided to pull out their maps and make some comparisons. After about an hour, Eric Robinson was reoriented and redirected back to the correct trail after realizing that he had been off of the trail for a little over an hour. It would be during this time, in the late afternoon, that Eric Robinson would bid the group farewell and walk in the direction designated by the troop leader in the right direction. As the appointed day of Eric's expected arrival at Mirror Lake on the 7th of August came and went without any sign of the experienced outdoorsman, his close friends grew increasingly concerned and believed that something terrible may have happened to Eric, as it was unlike him completely to not stick rigidly to his trail itinerary. Fearing the worst, the group of friends contacted the United States Forest Service and the local Duchesne County Sheriff's Department to help organize a search and rescue effort for their missing friend. Local newspapers would claim that an experienced sheriff by the name of Travis Mitchell was assigned to the case and would organize the search and rescue operation, getting volunteers and trained men in the areas along the Highline Trail within the hour of being contacted. The search efforts involved a comprehensive array of resources, including helicopters, equestrians, all-terrain vehicles, a team of experienced bloodhounds, and local campers and hikers who decided to volunteer. Sheriff Mitchell also contacted Marilyn, who attested to Eric's excellent health and unwavering passion for hiking and exploration, and gathered all of the information he needed about Eric's expected travels and itinerary. Eric's extensive preparations, including carrying extra supplies for unforeseen circumstances, showcased his competence and dedication to safety and helped put the search and rescue volunteers at ease, allowing them to do a more thorough examination of each gridded area before moving on to the next. Unfortunately for investigators, despite 15 days of relentless searching, the rescue teams found no trace of Eric Robinson. Based on the Boy Scouts' sighting on August 2nd, the search area was somewhat confined, yet their efforts yielded no breakthroughs. Recognizing that the search operations were nearing their conclusion, Marilyn made the difficult decision to travel to Utah. As the 22nd of August marked the official termination date of all search operations, Marilyn valiantly continued her quest to find Eric by distributing posters and photographs at various trailheads throughout the area. Regrettably, all endeavors to locate Eric proved fruitless, and the equipment he carried has never been found. Oddly enough, Eric's tragic hike and disappearance was reported just 1 mile west of Cupertino Lake, the same location where 12-year-old Garrett Bardsley had vanished without a trace back on the 20th of August in 2004, leaving behind an enduring mystery. Eric's disappearance further deepens the eerie connection between hikers and the enigmatic Winters Wilderness, as both he and Garrett were last seen by Boy Scouts, raising unsettling questions about the region's inexplicable nature. Eric Robinson's disappearance on the Highline Trail has baffled investigators and outdoor enthusiasts alike. Despite his thorough preparations and adherence to safety measures, he vanished into the vast expanse of the Winters Wilderness, leaving no clues to his whereabouts. Celsa Lucero. Within the breathtaking scenic landscape of the U.S. state of New Mexico lies the captivating Manzano mountain range, a cluster of large mountains and valleys that stretch out southwards, running parallel to the city of Albuquerque. These mountains, unlike the typical image of the state, host some of the densest lush greenery of New Mexico, coupled with overgrown and towering trees that line the mountain range throughout the area. Unfortunately for the Lucero family, it would be within this mesmerizing backdrop that a puzzling incident would suddenly unfold on the 9th of November, back in 1940, shrouding the region in dark and terrifying mystery. Celsa Lucero, a resilient 51-year-old woman who suffered from hearing loss, embarked on a journey with her family from Los Duranes to the Manzano Mountains. The goal of the trip, according to the family, was to continue their annual tradition of traveling to the mountain range to gather clusters of wild piñón seeds, also known as pine nuts, which flourished abundantly in the area. Preparing for the outing, Celsa took great care to equip herself with adequate protection, fashioning herself with a thick mitten that would cover her left hand to help shield it from the prickly pine needles on the piñón plants. Celsa Lucero's family would also later tell investigators that Celsa was also believed to have been dressed in thick, warm attire and even carried matches to combat any unforeseen chill in the event that the wind would get worse at higher altitudes. As the day progressed, the Lucero group, composed of Celsa's close sisters, her nephews, and other family members, would leave their campsite sometime around 10:30 in the morning, agreeing to all reconvene and meet back up at the campsite by 3:30 in the afternoon. The last known person to have seen Celsa shortly before her sudden disappearance would claim to have seen the 51-year-old woman preparing her equipment before beginning her hike away from the camp at around 11 in the morning. It would be at around that time that Celsa was believed to have briefly accompanied another camper, who was not a member of their family or a member of their camping group, before venturing out on her own to pursue piñón gathering. Despite Celsa's disability, suffering from an estimated 90% hearing loss, the Lucero family was unconcerned when Celsa left the campsite to travel on her own, as she was often considered the most experienced hiker among the entire family. Celsa's brother would later tell investigators that Celsa was one of the most capable hikers he had ever known and was in excellent physical shape for her age. Even more reassuring, the campsite location was surrounded by some of the easiest amateur hiking trails of the range and had been a spot frequented by the family countless times in the past. Oddly enough, however, as the clock struck 3:30 in the afternoon, a terrible sense of unease began to settle among the campers and the Lucero group when Celsa was nowhere to be found. Roughly 30 minutes later, their worry grew exponentially as Celsa had yet to return. Faced with the harsh realities of their predicament, the family decided to build a large fire to stave off the chilling temperatures and provide a beacon for Celsa to find her way back. Unfortunately for the family, they all understood that shouting for Celsa would have been in vain due to her deafness, and so decided to establish a grid-like search pattern, starting the direction that Celsa had believed to have wandered off to. Throughout the night, the Lucero family tirelessly scoured the area in search of their missing loved one, but were unable to find any sign of the missing 51-year-old. On the following day, on November 10th, an estimated 16 hours after Celsa was considered to be missing, the Lucero family would contact the United States Forest Service, seeking assistance and hope in their quest to find Celsa Lucero nearby. The formal search and rescue operation for Celsa Lucero spanned a period of 2 weeks, but it was a task fraught with challenges. The newspapers of the time reported that the search efforts had to be repeatedly halted due to the sudden unprecedented cold weather that swept through the mountains. For reasons not entirely understood, the expected cold weather of the mountain range would suddenly shift into a dramatic freeze that would see temperatures throughout the area plummet by more than 20 degrees at a time. Despite initial weather forecasts expecting warmer temperatures for the next month, the sudden freeze would come and go sporadically throughout the search and rescue time frame. Despite Celsa's warm clothing and possession of matches, teams of pilots across several different aircraft, trained search and rescue horsemen, a group of volunteer hikers, and even an experienced team of bloodhounds were unable to find any sign of the missing 51-year-old woman. According to search and rescue volunteers and missing person investigators, more than 20 miles radiating out from where Celsa was last seen had been thoroughly checked, and then checked again, but there seemed to be no indication where Celsa had disappeared off to. Even more peculiar, despite having several different sources of Celsa's scent to track, the canine team was unable to pick up any trail of Celsa after following several hundred feet from the campsite. Among the searchers, one person stood out, a man by the name of Celsa Lucero, Celsa Lucero's devoted brother. Even after others had given up hope, Celsa continued to search for Celsa, determined to find his beloved sister. In a November 10, 1941, article published in the Albuquerque Journal, Celsa expressed his ongoing concern, revealing the following: "We have found no trace of her since she left camp. Not even the coffee can she carried to put her piñons in, or her mitten. Celsa had ventured away from her camp in El Cañón de la Carolina, situated on the western slope of the Manzano Mountains. Over 350 searchers, comprising the New Mexico State Police Department, sheriff's deputies, police officers, forest rangers, Navajo Indian trackers, and over a couple hundred volunteers, scoured the mountains in a desperate bid to locate the missing woman. However, their efforts proved fruitless, and the whereabouts of Celsa Lucero remained elusive, her fate a haunting mystery. To this day, her ultimate fate remains unknown, forever etched into the enigmatic nature of the Manzano Mountains. The disappearance of Amy Jackson in Sequoia National Park. In the realm of perplexing vanishings, the enigma surrounding the disappearance of Amy Jackson stands as a haunting testament to the mysteries that shroud the Sequoia National Park, located in the state of California. According to one of the strangest missing persons reports ever made, it would be on a fateful evening of August 13th, back in 1966, that Amy Jackson, a mere 18 months old, would suddenly disappear while embarked on a short camping adventure with her parents. The nature of Amy Jackson's disappearance would leave investigators puzzled, as the young girl appeared to vanish in the middle of the night while lying alongside her two parents. According to the report, the Jackson family would journey from their cozy residence, located in the small town of Upland, California, to the idyllic sanctuary of Pier Creek campgrounds, where they would decide to camp for the night. Eager to bask in the serenity of large sequoia trees and in the safe camping spot often frequented by other experienced hikers and campers, the family promptly set up camp upon their arrival, ready to immerse themselves in the ethereal beauty that surrounded them. As night soon fell upon the wild landscape, the Jackson family, satiated after a delightful meal and a short hike throughout the surrounding area, finally decided to return back to their tent, which zipped up completely, and lay down for the night. According to Amy's parents, all three were sleeping inside the enclosed tent, with Amy sleeping in the middle of both of her parents when they last saw their 18-month-old daughter. Oddly enough, in the middle of the night, Mrs. Jackson would wake up to find that Amy Jackson was nowhere to be found, with the tent zipper still closed and no sign of Amy ever having woken up or walking away from their campsite. Panicked at the sight of their missing daughter, Mr. and Mrs. Jackson would immediately reach out to the national park officials to begin a search for their missing 18-month-old daughter. At first, the parents believed that Amy had been kidnapped, as it seems unlikely that the 18-month-old could have unzipped and zipped the tent back up and wandered off into the night very far. Despite this suspicion, however, the National Park Police swiftly mobilized their forces and established a search and rescue operation within an hour of being notified of the girl's disappearance, unleashing a formidable arsenal of bloodhounds and aerial support in a relentless quest to locate the missing toddler. However, the conclusion of the first day's search left the commanding officers concerned and confused, grappling with the absence of any tangible evidence regarding Amy's whereabouts. To the utter dismay of investigators and national park officials, even the highly trained bloodhounds failed to catch a whiff of Amy Jackson's scent, with the dogs displaying strange behavior and refusing to leave the tent, as if Amy had never left the tent to begin with. The lack of cooperation from the bloodhounds and trouble with finding any evidence or sign of the toddler, despite searching the area within a 3-mile radius, would force the National Park Service to reach out for assistance beyond their jurisdiction. In a remarkable turn of events, the revered Federal Bureau of Investigation was summoned to lend their expertise, amplifying the search efforts with additional helicopters, ground searchers, equestrians, and a fervent corps of dedicated volunteers, all united in their tireless pursuit of locating the missing girl. With the focus of the search efforts centered approximately 25 miles east of Porterville, at a dizzying elevation of 7,000 feet, the search and rescue operation continued over the course of 4 days with unwavering resolve. Yet, despite these best efforts, little to no sign of the missing girl was ever uncovered. Although tragic for the Jackson family, investigators felt that the gravity of the situation prompted a response from the FBI to investigate the Jackson parents, with the Tulare County Sheriff's Department claiming that the account of events told by the parents seemed not only implausible but completely impossible, suspecting instead that foul play on the part of the parents had taken place. By the 3rd day of the search, the collective might of nearly 400 searchers meticulously scouring every inch of the campsite and its surrounding environs, fervently hoping for a trace of the 18-month-old girl, was unable to make any new major discoveries. The disheartening reality of the situation was further underscored by the bloodhounds' baffling failure to detect Amy's scent, and the fact that the 18-month-old girl should not have been able to have travelled very far from the camp in the middle of the night, given her size and the time of her disappearance, adding yet another layer of intrigue to an already confounding puzzle. However, on the fourth day of the relentless search, a tragic resolution soon emerged as the Kern County Special Rescue Team made a chilling discovery. An August 18, 1966 article in the esteemed Arizona Republic recounts the harrowing moment a crack Kern County Special Rescue Team found her nestled at the base of a colossal rock, perched precariously uphill from the Deer Creek campground. This account vividly illustrates why the Kern County Sheriff felt compelled to involve the FBI, grappling with the nightmarish scenario of how she vanished from a tent, defying logical explanation while evading the search efforts of both humans and hounds. The assumption arising from this discovery suggested the possibility of a fatal fall from a towering boulder, hinting at the heartbreaking prospect that Amy may have traversed even greater distances before meeting her demise, or succumbed to the unforgiving elements of exposure. Reports also alluded to the fact that a 3-mile radius encompassing the campsite had been meticulously scoured prior to the discovery, yielding no trace of anything strange or any sign of the girl's passing. As the notion of filing a Freedom of Information Act request with the FBI remains futile, considering their steadfast refusal to release any information on ongoing investigations, the incident surrounding Amy Jackson's disappearance remains steeped in suspicion, even in the modern day. Masters of meticulous documentation and the subsequent classification of files, the FBI safeguards a repository of accounts pertaining to the peculiar disappearances of missing children. As we delve deeper into the recesses of this disconcerting narrative, the looming question persists. What hidden forces conspire behind these baffling occurrences, and what truths lie shrouded within the vaults of the unknown? In the pursuit of uncovering hidden treasures, Daryl Miklos undertook a deep investigation into the Caribbean region using meticulously compiled maps from the 1960s by NASA astronaut Gordon Cooper. With precision and determination, he delved into over 100 magnetic anomalies spotted on these maps. Venturing into the depths of an undisclosed area close to the Bahamas, Miklos embarked on a quest to unravel the mysteries shrouding a potential ancient ship. The seasoned treasure hunter, in a twist of fate, stumbled upon an astonishing and peculiar structure that defied all expectations and left him in awe. This remarkable find was unlike anything he had seen before. The colossal, unidentified submerged object is accompanied by 15 obtrusions, each one stretching an impressive length of 300 feet, protruding prominently from the object. During a private interview, Miklos provided a detailed account of his findings while filming episode 7 of Cooper's Treasure. He passionately expressed his team's objective of recovering the remarkable aircraft from the depths of the ocean, shedding light on their ambitious endeavor. He said that during the filming, there was a specific moment that stuck in his mind. It was a scene in which he found himself seated inside a submersible, designed for 2 occupants. During his time in the Bahamas, he embarked on an intriguing adventure along the renowned shipwreck trail associated with the eminent historical figure Sir Francis Drake. During his attempt to analyze the shipwreck artifacts by referencing the anomaly readings on Gordon's charts, he stumbled upon a peculiar observation that completely took him by surprise. The formation he encountered was truly extraordinary and unlike anything he had ever witnessed in relation to shipwreck material. Its sheer size was far beyond what one would typically expect from such remnants. In this remarkable scenario, it is as if a wall cliff generously sprouted 5 colossal arms, each of which rivals the size of a battleship's gun. These arms are magnificently enormous, with another set of 5 arms adorning the opposite side, and yet another set of 5 on a different side, amounting to a grand total of 15 arms. This awe-inspiring image truly captivates the imagination with its sheer scale and magnitude. Based on his extensive experience in this field, he has come across 3 different areas, where there are formations that appear to not be naturally occurring or the result of human activity. These formations do not resemble anything he has ever encountered before, despite his years of expertise in this area. Additionally, upon further investigation, they have identified multiple types of shipwreck materials, none of which correlate or bear any resemblance to these formations. It is intriguing to note that these formations stand out as unique and unexplained anomalies in the context of his work and observations. Diving to a depth of 300 feet below the surface, the explorers encountered the most profound section of the site. To safely explore this extreme depth, divers were equipped with specialized breathing apparatus and utilized a cutting-edge submarine. During the expedition, the exploratory team also stumbled upon numerous peculiar and enigmatic structures surrounding the central subject. These formations, adorned with an abundance of resilient coral growth, have intrigued the explorers, leading them to speculate on their age, estimating that they may date back hundreds, or perhaps even thousands of years. Miklos was filled with astonishment by the discovery he made. Upon returning to his ship, he made a conscious decision to delve deeper into Cooper's files, motivated by his willingness to uncover additional clues and unravel the mystery even further. In a noteworthy manner, the astronaut made a remarkable notation on the map of the region, opting to describe the sighting as an unidentified object, instead of referring to it as a known historical shipwreck. During Miklos's investigation of Gordon's charts, he came to the realization that there was an additional element that Gordon was making reference to. This discovery served as an important observation, shedding further light on the information presented in the charts. Upon further reflection, he began to comprehend the reason behind it not being classified as a shipwreck. He said that Cooper must have been alluding to the possibility of it being an object of advanced origin. Gordon held a firm belief in the existence of advanced beings. He was convinced that not only did these beings visit our planet from other worlds, but they also frequently chose this specific region as a landing location for their crafts or encounters.